The views and opinions expressed by tonight's guest and topic of discussion do not necessarily represent the official policy or position of Spaced Out Radio, Spaced Out Weekend, Spaced Out Radio Limited, its hosts, syndicated carriers, or anyone associated with this broadcast. Any rebroadcast, reproduction, or other use of this broadcast or podcast without the express written consent of Spaced Out Radio or Spaced Out Radio Limited is strictly prohibited. Listener discretion is advised. Are you experienced?
Stop right there!
From high atop the mountains of British Columbia to you listening around the world, this is Spaced Out Radio with host Dave Scott.
They let us play with all our toys, they let us think that we're big boys, they let us make a lot of noise, but we ain't rule the world. They let us think we're Superman.
You can follow us on our website, spacedoutradio.com, on iTunes and TuneIn. Follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, on Facebook at Spaced Out Radio Show, or on our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio Show.
I try to act so cool, but you know I'm just a fool for you. I will stop till I reach the top just to be there with you.
Dave, oh Dave, are you playing with Bigfoot and aliens again?
Dad, you gotta stop haunting the ghost. It's scaring them.
All right, seriously, put down the pointy sticks.
Oh, the deeper I fall.
Okay! Game on! Game on! Game on!
The password is...
All right.
Buckle up, space travelers. It's time to go for a ride on Spaced Out Radio. Mr. Bumblefoot, Dave is ready for liftoff.
I try to act so cool, but you know I'm just a fool for you.
Seriously, Dave? Really? Aren't you a little old for a tinfoil hat?
Hello, Toby. Bye-bye. Love you. Bye-bye.
Please take your seat above us. There will be exits. Prepare for takeoff. Start. 2, 1. Boost ignition and liftoff.
I'm such a lucky guy, 'cause after all this time, it's like the deeper I go, the deeper I fall. The deeper I go, the deeper I fall.
Good evening and welcome to Spaced Out Radio tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott. It's great to have you along for the ride on this Wednesday, August 23rd, Thursday, August 24th. If you're on the East Coast or across the pond, hope you had a great day and night as we are live right here in the Great White North on top of the mountains of central British Columbia. As we are here 7 days a week, we welcome in everyone listening in on our terrestrial stations. WQEE 99 Rock the Key down in Noonan, Georgia, home of the Walking Dead. We are live as well on the United Public Public Radio Network on 107.7 FM in New Orleans and over 160 countries around the world. We're also live at spacedoutradio.com, Spreaker, KTLK, The Fringe FM, Renegade Talk Radio out of Vegas, the High Plains Talk Radio Network, and if you're listening in on Revolution Radio, remember the Double R Machine is a donation station financed by you, the valued listener. Head on over to freedomslips.com and donate today. If you like our music, get your horns up for Mr. Ron Bumblefoot THAL, formerly of Guns N' Roses, currently of Art of Anarchy. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio. Now, we're all over social media, so you could follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio. Give our Facebook page a like, Spaced Out Radio Show. You can find me on Instagram, Dave Scott, SOR. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio Show. Listen to us on iHeartRadio in the United States. Tune us in on TuneIn. Download and subscribe to our channel on iTunes. We're also on TalkStream Live, and if you go to our website, it is spacedoutradio.com. Now, if you want to take part in this show, you got to do me a favor. You got to sign into one of the chat rooms, either on Revolution Radio, Spreaker, the UPRN chat room, or on Facebook at the SOR Space Travelers Club. Or if you're on Twitter, just go to hashtag Spaced Out Radio. I will connect with you live during the show there as well. Now, if you head to our website for $5 a month, you can become a member of our SOR Space Travelers Club. You can also shop at our store, pick up a t-shirt, poster, sticker, read the encounter online. My blog is on there as well. If you've had an experience you can't explain, let's fill out an SOR Sightlines report so we can get our researchers in on it. You can also see some very cool video footage from Tim Doyle from UFO Seekers and Leslie Mitchell Clark's Contact TV. Now, before we get too far into tonight's show, I'm so proud to make this announcement. I'm actually quite giddy. The man behind our great intro voice, Mr. Bob Davis, had one of the best days ever early this morning. At 12:01 a.m. Mountain Time, Bob became a first-time grandfather to a beautiful little boy named Bo Haley. Bob's daughter and the little radio announcer, who was 6 pounds, 8 ounces, are said to be doing fantastic. So, Bob, on behalf of all of our Spaced Out Radio listeners, congratulations, Grandpa, on the newest addition to your family. Much love from all of us. You mean so much to us, and we're so proud for you and your family at this time. Now, to tonight's show. Normally, I can feel the eyes rolling from many of our listeners the minute they hear I'm bringing a psychic onto the show. I know. You want aliens, you want ghosts and conspiracies and Sasquatch, I get it. But sometimes an amazing story like this has to be told. Sloan Bella is an amazing woman who uses her intuitive gifts to help those on the streets. Sounds weird, right? But you see, she's been there. She ran away from her home in Toronto as a teenager and ended up on the West Coast in Los Angeles, and knows all too well how rough and corrupt the mean streets can be. And because of her true human nature combined with the strength of her abilities, Sloan has worked with movie stars, entertainers, politicians, and other elites to tell them about their future, about what's going on. She's been featured on dozens of television shows, including E! Channel, Montel, $1 Million Listings, and more. You can find more out about Sloan at her website, sloanbella.com. Sloan, my fellow Canadian, how are you, my friend? Great to have you on Spaced Out Radio.
Hi, Dave. Thank you so much. Yes, we're both Canadians. It's a conspiracy.
It is a conspiracy right off the bat.
It just is. Yes, exactly. My people.
Exactly. But you know what? We do have to remember, like 70% of our audience is in the United States, and they're good people down there too, except for a couple on Twitter, and they'll just snark me to death anyways. But that's okay. I want to say thank you for doing this show, because I know you're a busy lady. I know your time is limited because you're always running on something. And the other day on E! Channel for the eclipse, you were literally called to the studio 45 minutes before you had to be on the air. So it's incredible that you've actually made time for us and our audience. So thank you.
No, this is fun. This is great. Yeah, that was funny the other day. It was show up as you go and put your makeup on in the car kind of thing. So yes, this I don't have to put makeup on for. So this is good.
Perfect. You had psychic ability your entire life, or was this something you kind of stumbled into?
I was actually born with it, as in I never noticed that I didn't have it. So to me, it was just being me and being very normal. I assumed everybody had it. I mean, I didn't know that I wasn't doing something that other people weren't doing. So it was like having brown eyes or being a girl. It just, I don't remember when I knew I was a girl, but I just always knew I was a girl. So the same kind of thing. It was exactly like that. I never thought I wasn't psychic. It just was part of my makeup. So I viewed the world through those eyes and thought that that was how everybody did it.
So when you started noticing that not everybody had this ability, and that people were kind of giving you strange looks and maybe strange comments, or how did you know that, or why are you talking like that? You've heard them all. You know what I'm talking about. How did you react to that growing up? Because for youngsters, and my children are very intuitive as well, and especially going into the teenage years, it can be so difficult for so many.
It's very difficult because people tend to have a belief of the world that is their belief. So if you, depending on the home you grow up in, I think now maybe people are more, you would be supportive with your children because you're in this field. I was supportive with my children growing up. I didn't tell them, oh, because you said that, you know, you're crazy or, you know, you're ridiculous. I didn't do anything like that. They were ridiculous for other reasons, but that wasn't one of them. But when you grow up in a home, I mean, my home was business. My parents were both business professionals and very well educated. And so for them, it wasn't really something that they focused on, and my father was basically agnostic, so there was no belief in anything other than what was directly in front of you. I mean, there was the hope that there was something else, I suspect, but there was no formal teaching towards that. So for me to speak like that, it caused conflict right off the bat, but it didn't stop me from speaking. I thought I was free to be the way that I was. So I would say it was my parents that first disapproved and you know, did not like me speaking in any way whatsoever. That and in normal kid ways too. So I learned from them that I was made to feel strange, but I was also adopted. So I didn't know if I thought it was because of that or because of what I was doing. I don't think I ever took it literally personally, like, oh, there's something wrong with my thinking, but they did try to convey that to me. They did. Which I find humorous now. But at the time, I think it probably irritated me at the time. So it would be from within the home. But so many people can teach their kids, so many people can be open to what their kids tell them without making them feel bad if they just listen and assume it's correct to begin with when the kids are talking and not say anything, just let them talk. But in my day, because I'm a lot older than your kids, obviously, or I'd be a kid. But in my day, it was very difficult because you were expected to do what your parents wanted you to do. My kids are not that way. They don't care what we want. They do what they want. They do what they feel they should do. And it's always been that way. But for me, of course, I wanted to please my family, and I was not a pleasing presence for them when I was doing this kind of thing. So it was often looked upon as I was odd and crazy. They sent me to the shrinks and that kind of thing. So, you know, I later find out in life I'm not crazy, but there was years of that. So, yeah, it was kind of difficult.
Was it tough making friends because of it?
No, oddly enough, I seem to have a lot of friends. I mean, enough friends. I don't know if a lot's the right word, but I mean, I had a circle of many different kinds of friends. So I was always drawn to different people. And actually, oddly, I should give one of my little friends a call out. When I was I had a little friend named Kathy, but when we were little, we were actually ghost hunting. And what used to, it's funny, I just thought about it right now. What used to irritate my father beyond belief is we thought the neighbors were aliens. So we would go into their basement uninvited, and my parents would get a call and my dad would have to come get us. But he was constantly driving us around, and we were going on our ghost hunting things. So he was retrieving us from areas we weren't supposed to be in. So when I was very young, I had friends that facilitated in thought the same way I did. They were in agreement with me. So I don't think I noticed that it was difficult to make friends, other than the normal difficulties of being a kid in school.
So what made you then, and I think this is where we start to get into the real base, at least of the first hour of the show, which I think is so highly important to get the message out. What made you then decide that as a young teenager, it would be best for you to leave home in Toronto and head all the way to California?
Well, I'm a border jumper. I'm kidding when I say that, sorry, I have to say it. I like to tempt fate and cross the border, and it's warmer in California. That's the first thing. That's my humor with it. But I actually ended up leaving home. There were two things that were going on. My home, obviously, by the time that I had reached, it was 3 months after I turned 14, but at the time that I reached that age, my parents were in such conflict with me that it was on the violent side, and so that was not helpful for my mind. And also I had voices telling me, not the crazy voices, the psychic voices, telling me that I could leave the house, and I just did it. I followed it and did it and found that I really wasn't particularly scared. I mean, it's not that I didn't want to go back home, but I just didn't want to live in a house where people didn't like who I was. I don't really care what the reason is. I just don't want to be around that. Did not want to conform to how they wanted me to be. And then again, they were aggressive in their parenting, I guess would be a good word. Violent, I'll say violent. And so I just chose to leave at that time, and that's what I did. I didn't have a plan per se. I just kind of followed what I wanted to do at the time. So I just headed out the door. That was my first step. And then once I got to school, I left school, and terrible thing to say, but hitchhiked. And then so I went all over the place, and I crossed the border many times back and forth between New York and Toronto, but that's pretty close. I mean, we're 6 hours away, I guess, from the border. So I would border hop all the time. And it wasn't till my later teens that I actually ended up in California. But yeah, I just went where I felt like it. And I moved around quite a bit. So I was a little bit of a free spirit at that time, which was interesting. I met many different kinds of people, as you can imagine, people that were struggling in their lives at the time. So young people, a lot of kids are on the street for different reasons. And it's interesting. And I will say this, kids on the street, no matter how old they are, they tend to have a really strong psychic ability. So they're by nature psychic because it's a survival instinct. They have to be. They can't go out there and be on the streets dealing with, I'll say, predatory adults or grown-up people that target these kids. And in order to stay safe or alive, you have to actually really hone your instinct. And so at the very least, I feel a lot of the kids on the street have a heightened sense of awareness of what's going on, more so than an average person, because it's such an intense energy. So I found myself, I don't know that I would actually say it was a squat house, but it was a house that, number one, was filthy. That was a bit irritating, but it was where groups of people slept. And I did end up in that kind of a situation. And it was always very interesting because there were many people coming in and out of there. And I was able at that time to really feel the energy of what happens when people do too many drugs and drink too much, and what that does to their body energy and what entities it brings into them. So I explored a lot of that. I was very aware of that as a teenager. You can't really tell people that because, of course, they think you're crazy, like we started off saying at the beginning of the show. But it's very obvious to me that people that live that kind of lifestyle are really damaging. I don't want to say their soul per se, because I think it's different when we cross over than it is here, but they're damaging their ability to be strong on the planet by doing that. So I learned that very early on. I pretty much decided I didn't want to be a drug addict or an alcoholic at a very young age because I watched it so much. But it put me in the path of all these people, and those are the people that need your help. I mean, I'll say my help as in the profession I'm in, because they come from such traumas in early life, and that's what leads them to where they are. For whatever reason, they run away from home, or they end up on the streets, or they just leave in their early 20s, and it's perfectly fine. They have these early traumas that they wear in their energy fields, and so that's where my work came in. I learned when I was young how to kind of go in and pull those traumas out by doing the work that I did. So I was able to see the trauma on people and encourage them to let go of it and sort of guide them. It doesn't work all the time. I mean, I deal with a lot of people that, it doesn't work, but you try, obviously. And so I learned that. And then on the other side of that, in order for me to survive, make money, I ended up working with people that were your strippers, your streetwalkers, or street people that were professional working people, your gamblers, your drug dealers, all that kind of thing. They would come to me and ask me things like, do you think I'll be safe tonight? Like the girls that were working the street, if I work on this street, is anybody going to hurt me? I got a lot of those questions, and I like to joke because I wasn't necessarily charging for my readings at the time, but I would trade things like cigarettes. Yes, I did smoke, and no, I don't now. I would trade things like cigarettes and, hair bleach, that kind of things I needed, food, purses, whatever. So I kind of bartered my way through it when I was really young. But that's what the questions were for me. They just wanted to know that they were going to be okay. And for some reason, they felt that I might be able to see that. Not that I could or couldn't at the time, but I would get strong feelings about them. So that's how my profession started for me. That's actually when I started working at it, was being able to do that. And I had a lot of experiences with, I don't want to say spirits per se, but things, entities from the other side that came through people. And I noticed that they attached to people and they attached to the energy. So I'm kind of really aware of that, and I can spot it a mile away. So, something I learned from those early days. And that's where my working with street kids came in, because I, A, have an affinity for it, and B, I don't believe any of us should be stuck in a mindset that society puts on us because we started out our life like that. If you run away from home and you end up, as a working girl on the street, society says, those words that they call people that do that, those awful words, and they label you. And so the people that get labeled get very stuck in their belief system where they can't move forward because they believe what people tell them. And I was always against that. I worked with very early on, young age. I mean, I can even remember as a young child being in second grade and having a neighbor that was transgender, weirdly. She was a she, and she wanted to be a male. And I can remember basically trying to talk to her when I was a little kid. And I mean, I was literally in second grade, so I don't know how good what I was doing was, but I can remember saying to her, like, this is just who you are. You were born this way. This is how you're supposed to be. And I can remember the early struggle, but it didn't come out quite as painfully as we hear things on TV now. It was, really just in very little subtle ways that she would describe it. Like, her parents didn't like her wearing the clothes she wore, which were male, and she liked to wear a tool belt and keep her pants hanging down and that kind of thing, and cut her hair all off. And so, we accepted her, and she came and played with me after school every day. But I remember her having an issue with it, and I remember being able to see that her soul was supposed to be that way at the time. And I worked with a lot of kids like that. A lot of kids on the street actually surprisingly come from, obviously, adopted homes, foster homes, step-parent homes, where the fathers don't like the way the child is behaving, and the woman needs the man for financial support, and so the kid gets thrown out on the street. So I worked with a lot of that. And they end up in the sex industry, and then they're marked for life because people want to annihilate them for what they did to survive, and they bear that shame on their psyche. So I work with people, even present day people, who are coming in many different levels out of that situation. So there's people that are currently working in those industries, people that are working through those, people that are working with childhood sexual abuse issues. I have many clients that I work with on that level, and it's more about teaching them that what they learned and what the lesson is from it and how to let go of it as best the person can. Obviously, for some people, it's very difficult. So I think that's the reason I ran away from home, because it's such a strong calling for me. It's something I do just naturally, like I'm drawn to it. So I feel like it was a purpose for me. Only at the time I didn't know it. I didn't even consider it at the time. It just kind of happened. It rolled into being my purpose.
Well, you know what? I commend you for the strength and resolve you showed at a young age. Being surrounded in that environment is difficult enough, to say the least. As a 14-year-old, how did you have or find the strength to stay away from the booze and the drugs and keep your goals and your mindset, because it's so easy in that type of lifestyle to get swept up in the devils, which we see as alcohol and heavy narcotics.
Absolutely. That's an interesting question, because I won't say I completely stayed away from it, because people who may be listening may know that as a teenager, I dabbled in and out of it, meaning not heavily. I would never call myself an addict in any sense of the word, but I dabbled in and out of it. But watching the people around me, I felt some kind of an ultimate responsibility. It's a weird thing, almost to parent them, which is a weird thing to say because I was young, but as I would watch them, it seemed like they were so out of control that you couldn't have a whole bunch of people being out of control, because that just seemed way too out of control for me. So, I would go in and out of it, and as people got really crazy, I've always said this, I have a lot of Virgo in my chart, and I think I was a cleanup person for a lot of people. So I would encourage them to do things. And I watched a lot of people talk and not do anything, and it used to really bother me. So I think it was my path. I was never really thinking that I would give up. I always thought I'd get to LA. I always thought I'd do what I do. I didn't know how I was going to do it, but I wasn't logical in my thinking at the time, so I didn't really believe in steps that people, like when people told me I couldn't do something, it just didn't make sense. I had crazy people tell me, you'll never be anything, the usual, you'll never be anything, you name it, every insult you can think of, you're this, you're that. And it just didn't occur to me. I guess maybe that was my ego was like, yeah, okay, I'm going to do it anyway. And there's a definite fire inside me. So when somebody says I cannot do something, I'm like, well, who are you to tell me that? You're nobody. I'm nobody and you're nobody, so we have equal chance. That was my thinking. So I was a little bit scrappy back then with that mindset.
But you had to be. You had to be mentally strong, because you left everything behind thinking, I'm a teenager, I know what's best for me, which is difficult at most part for a lot of kids. But when you made that decision and you followed through with your decision, you had no choice but to survive.
Correct. Yeah, correct. I mean, I know many people that went down, people that I was friends with at the time that went down the path of self-destruction up until probably 5 or 6 years ago, pulled themselves out. Others died. Some spent long times in jail. This is an odd thing to say, but as a child, and again, growing up in the home I grew up in, my parents were educated, so I was educated in an intelligent sense. Like I knew about the world. I traveled. It wasn't anything that I didn't know. But, growing up around alcohol, because my dad had a problem with his drinking growing up, but because he was educated, made money, and a businessman, nobody really considered it a problem except privately, if that makes sense. I guess if you're homeless and on the street, then you're a problem. But if you go to work every day, you're not a problem, even though we know that's not true. But I noticed that I really felt as a young child, and I remember having arguments about this, and I probably was 8 or 9, I felt that people indulging in that were being controlled. And I equated it with the government at the time, but I thought it was a way of keeping people down and not letting them express themselves. Because if we're too distracted with our addictions, whatever they are, call it gambling, call it, sex, food, I don't care what it is, we can't think. We are not conscious about what's in front of us. And by no way do I mean people who do things in moderation. I'm not one of those nutty people, but I always felt that it was a control thing. So I didn't want to be controlled. I always felt I could do what I wanted if I wanted to do it. And I still feel that way. I don't care about age. I don't care about anything. I think I can do what I want to do. And I believe we can all do that, but we are often taught not to. We're taught to believe what other people tell us. And so I had to really not believe what anybody told me when I was younger, or I probably would have jumped out a 30-story window if I believed what they said. So it was literally survival of mindset. And luckily, I think it was my path. So I would say I'm actually grateful for the experience, because it set me on my whole career, my whole life, my whole business. I mean, it opened up the door for me to be able to do what I needed to do and still do it. So we're talking, I guess, without revealing my age, 36 years of doing this work. So, and doing it and always being provided for and taken care of, by doing the work. So it's brought so many people and so many things and so many experiences that are extraordinary into my life that I wouldn't trade it for 1 second at all.
Did you go through a path of suicide contemplation or wondering if you should turn back and go home? Or did you ever just think, no, I did this for myself. This is about me. I got to keep on moving.
Well, I did go through, I've always been a little bit on the side of, why are we born? It would be so much easier not to be on the planet. But that's more a metaphysical thing in my thinking, because I have a different way of viewing the world. So I think once we get through this part of life and we cross over, like I'm excited now, what am I going to do in my next life? I could be completely ADD and crazy about that, but that's just thinking. So I'm not really one of those that worries like, oh, if I die young, I want to live long. I've never been like that. I'm like, oh, if I'm 10 and I die, I'm okay with it. So it's not necessarily suicidal. Now, have I been depressed? Yes. I had postpartum depression pregnant. So that would probably be the worst depression I had in my life. But that was hormonal, I think, more so than anything. But I did try to go back home. Not try to go back home. I got caught. I got corralled. Got caught by the policia because I was reported and I was missing for a year. Not missing. They kind of knew where I was. But I got pulled into the court system about a year after I ran away briefly. And there was communication, the family trying to reunite or whatever they call that. And I did ask to go back home. It was around Christmas, and so I would have been just close to 15. And I just remember walking in. This is actually true. I remember walking into it's Children's Aid Society in Canada. I don't know if it's that in Vancouver, but it is in Toronto. I remember walking into the meeting, and my mother just literally shook me away and said, "You're never coming back home." And at that moment, I thought, then I shall never ask you for another thing again in my life. And that was that. So that was just out of that comment, because I don't know that it would have worked if I'd have gone home, but because she said that, that's the last time that I ever asked anybody for anything other than, my kids, my husband, that kind of thing. But that was it. I just decided, okay, so be it, fine. And that was it. I moved on from there. I emancipated myself in court after that. I took them to court and emancipated them, and on I went on my little journey. So, yeah.
So as you started this journey and you started meeting more street hustlers, prostitutes, drug addicts, homeless who were in the same situation with you, leaving abusive homes, did you start noticing a pattern in the stories that you were hearing, which allowed you to strengthen your own skills as a psychic medium to start counseling people at such a young age?
Well, yeah, I believe people came to me anyway. Somehow they would find me, or it might have just been coincidence that they were talking to me, about their problems. But I could see, I was very aware. I will tell you this. I remember the reason I never got scooped up by a pimp or anything like that is because I was so aware of the control and the power mechanism of what was going on in that interaction between somebody that's trying to prostitute out another person for whatever reason, that it was so obvious to me what usually the young woman, what she was dealing with and what she was looking for and what he was presenting himself as. So I was able to tell them, if you go down this road this way, this is where you're going to end up. Other than the obvious, we know where they're going to end up. It's not a good place. But it was what they were looking for. And so it was the belief in their mind that if they were just pretty enough, good enough, brought in enough money, that this man would love them and they would have the family they were looking for. So I learned that we're all looking for that thing that we want, that we see on TV, that we see in the mirror, whatever it is we think we want. And I learned really young that that's probably not what we're going to get. So you have to really refocus your attention on what you have, and then to accept that you're not getting what you want, but you're getting something different. And I had a lot of, I was what they call a trance channel during that time. So I used to fall asleep everywhere, which is kind of funny because I just love my sleep. But I used to fall asleep step out of my body, only I wasn't exactly where I was doing that. People would tell me, and then I just remember talking to people in a dream state, but I came later on to find out what that was. But I learned really early on that from those visitations, or whatever you want to call them, when I stepped out, I realized that what we want as human beings is not necessarily what is best for us on a soul level. So just because somebody wants to, say, marry a nice man and be a stay-at-home mother and have a nice house in the suburbs, I don't know, whatever the goal is for people, or become a ballerina, or whatever it is, I learned that a lot of times what the earth teaches us to want is not what the soul desires, and that is what the conflict is. So I started working with that. I started going all the way back and trying to get to the core belief that the person had about themselves, and I would use my intuitive and psychic ability to do that. So when somebody would tell me, oh, I ran away from home because, let's just say they said their parents moved to Chicago and the mom got a new boyfriend and he didn't have room in the house. Let's say I was told things like that. I would actually be able to see where the abuse came from, mention it, work on them with that, like say, this is what I'm picking up with you. So this happened to you. So why are you blaming yourself? And then I was able to assign the correct energy, like where it belonged, to the abuser, and start getting them to think of themselves in a different way. Not everybody, but that's what I tried to do, because it was obvious to me where this was coming from. And believe it or not, when you abuse kids, that's pretty much now at 51, I'm going to say it, I'm that old. I can't believe it. But anyway, now at my age, that's like 90% of the problem. It's not the kids that are the problem. It's the parents, and it's the parents abusing the kids, and it's that childhood abuse that is the problem, because it eats at the person's soul. And so I saw that early on. It was interesting. And people, as I said, I worked with a lot of transgender kids at the time, or boys that were out on the street, and they're like, no, I'm straight, but I'm just sleeping with men for money. And I'm sorry, that could be true occasionally, but it isn't like a lifestyle thing. And so they had a lot of guilt because they were often kicked out of their house because they were gay or because they were transgender and they wanted to be women. And so when I got to LA, I actually ended up working quite exclusively with a group of kids at a local shelter, which was a fabulous shelter called Children of the Night, Dr. Lois Lee. And she was intuitive enough herself to see that to bring me in to work with the kids in her shelter, which was for 18 and under, would be good for them, because I would be able to help them without being an authority figure like a policeman or a court, person who had control over their life. They would listen to me because of the way I approached it with them, which was, at that time, I was doing the psychic work and the astrology work. So I was combining that and working with this group of kids, both male and female, but with those issues. They've been on the street, they've been prostitutes. And currently, at the moment, as an adult, as a person right now, I go and visit the kids at Freehab. That's another good shelter in Los Angeles. A friend of mine, Lori Burns, she runs that 100-bed shelter for kids that have aged out of the foster care system. So they're older kids, 18 to 30, and she opened up a 100-bed shelter for that. And those girls have been in all various different forms of abuse. So it's just something that I've always done. And in my personal life, it's something I do all the time. My kids have always, brought people home, their friends. They've always asked me, can you talk to this one? Can you talk to that one? So it's just something I do. And not always is it successful, but more often than not, you give them a different way to think about their life, where they can approach it. My goal is to get rid of their shame and their guilt about them being who they are and their experience. I don't even care if they were in jail for whatever they did. It doesn't matter. They're allowed to move forward from that point. So that was a lot of my work. That's what I would say. I've talked so much, Dave, so much, like you said.
Well, you know what? I'm going to tell you, I thought you were in your mid to late 30s.
You're funny.
I'm just going to clarify.
Last week.
I'm just going to clarify that right now. So I'm clapping for you on that note. Thank you so much. Much appreciated. But on a serious note. Though, when you were dealing with these transient people, and I hate using that term because they are people, and they have a heart, they have a soul, they still bleed red,
absolutely.
But we can't, or for most of us, we've never stood in those types of shoes. And that's kind of why that's why I kind of like our audience, whether they're on Twitter or in the chat rooms, is everybody kind of accepts everybody around here because we don't know their story. And that's what I kind of profess on this show as well. So when you were dealing with these lost souls, if we can call them that, and they started coming to you for psychic readings and some sort of look into the future on whether or not they would be safe that night, whether or not they would get to eat or find a place to sleep, how much pressure as a teenager did you put on yourself to try and find that answer?
I think I was very stupid as a teenager because I didn't put any pressure on myself. I just said what it was that I had to say, because they would say to me, I would say, I did ask people, what is it you want? Like, what do you want me to do? And they're like, we just want you to say what you feel. So they were very open to they may have recognized something in me, before I recognized it as strongly, but that's what I did. I would say what I feel. And I'm not one to say I'm always right or always wrong. I can just say that I've continued my work and I have some of the same people. I have a lot of the same people over years and years, but it's not about right or wrong. I always looked at it as, can I help you? Even if I give you information is knowledge is power. So that's the way I approached it. And wherever I could get the information from, as in wherever I could pull it from in my head, sometimes it would be outstandingly remarkable. Something would trigger, and I'll tell you, this was in my early 20s. I was standing in front of somebody who was working as a cook in a restaurant, and with somebody that I worked with, and he was married at the time and had a baby. He might have had another one coming on the way. I can't remember. And I remember I said something like, I'll have a glass of milk. I literally said this. He gave me the glass of milk, and we each had a glass of milk. We were in the back of the kitchen talking about something. And I remember he was talking to me right in front of me, and he had just drank the milk. And you know what milk smells like when your kids drink it and stuff. And I smelled the milk smell, but behind the milk smell, I smelled illness smell in my mind. Okay, I don't think it actually was the way that he smelled, but I remember saying to him what illness he had. Like I said, you need to go to a doctor. You have this. And it was probably a year and a half to 2 years later, he actually called me to say that was accurate. He did pass away from the illness because he didn't want to deal with what it was. But I remember picking up so vividly. It was like I had a physical body sensation after he drank the last gulp of milk, and I smelt the milk. It was like he was talking to me and I could smell it on his breath, but it was what was behind that. And so it was very overpowering, and it just flew out of my mouth. So I kind of got a reputation for just saying whatever off the top of my head, which some people can find very offensive. And other people, it may shock them, but it's that kind of thing. So I don't know that I even had I didn't think it was about me. I thought it was coming from somewhere else, actually. I always thought the information, and I was very aware of people around me. Like I was aware of energies and entities, and I really did step in and out of my body a lot. So for me, being in the physical body on this side and my normal Sloan self, my human self, I never assumed that I was responsible for the information. Like I could feel it come. There's a physical sensation when you're reading somebody. Your body energy quickens, so your pace quickens, so you can feel it. There's a physical feeling to it, in at least the way I experience it. So I just knew it was coming from outside of me. It just felt like that. That's, could I prove it? No, but that's what it felt like to me.
This leads to a question from Amanda in the SOR Space Travelers Club. And once again, if you have questions for our guest tonight, make sure you type them out in capital letters so I do not miss them. Sloan, Amanda is asking, did any of the workers or addicts that you counseled that maybe didn't survive ever come to you in spirit for help?
Yes, actually, weirdly. Yes, they often will stick around you. They will come around you if they feel that you're open to them. I don't know that it was so much about me as much as I could feel them. And I've had random spirits in the same situations as the people I helped come to me in the middle. To answer your question, yes, I did have people like that. And I just recently had a family friend who is in that same position at the moment. She had her husband pass away, and when I tried to reach him for her, he basically had told me that he didn't need to come through right now. He would be seeing her soon enough. So I did relay that message to her, like, if you don't smarten up, you're not going to need to come to me. You're just going to go straight over there. It's been, that fell on deaf ears. And so, we're waiting to see. This is just recently that happened. That's in the current situation. But other times, I've had them, I've been around people like right before they pass over. 2 years ago, I was involved in 3 different circumstances within a month and a half with 3 people that died in front of me on the street as their souls stepped out of their body or their human self, quite by random accident. And they were, 2 of them were on drugs, screwing around. One died, literally, I heard it in my head before he died. I heard he's going to die, and I dragged my husband out of bed, put him in the car, drove around the corner, and proceeded to watch the guy die right in front of me. He got into an accident right there, but I heard it in my head, so I got in my car. And it's a true story, watched it right there, watched him get out of his body. He did have a message. The paramedics were working on him. I already knew he was dead, but whatever, they do what they do. And he was speaking directly to his young child. I didn't know he had a child. I didn't even know who he was. But I asked the other people, where's his son? Where's his son? Because that's what he left this earth thinking about, was his son. And I came to find out, because I did not know who he was, but I asked around after. I came to find out that he just won custody of his son in a court battle that week, or very close. So this was, I think the kid was probably like your son's age, 4 or 5. And he did, but on his way off this planet, that was the one thing that he conveyed. And it was such a strong thought that it picked up. But what was interesting, to answer your question, is when people are passing from their, I'll call it their stupid behavior, because when I look at it now, I think it's stupid, although I honor their choice to be stupid. I think it's not a good decision to do those things. But it's interesting because I'll get the information before they pass that they're passing. So it let me know that sometimes we make a decision, and even though our life seems like it's all right and fine and good, it isn't, because it's already written that we're crossing over. We just don't know it. Because that's happened quite a bit, actually. Quite a bit.
Amanda follows up and says a lot of her clients, because she works in healthcare, who have died from addiction or health issues have actually visited her afterwards for help. So the job really isn't done just because they're on the other side. Some of these people who gain that trust in what you were able to see and do with your own abilities ask for you to help them carry over in an unfamiliar situation when they've crossed over to the other side.
Exactly. Well, because Amanda, what she's talking about is she's helping them walk into the light. Because now, do I know this 100% is true? No, I don't. But it's from my understanding from the work that I've done. When you do something like kill yourself or cause your own demise through your stupid behavior, which is reckless suicide. So let's say I'm dragged street racing every night for 5 years, and let's say I get in 3 accidents, but I don't die. Well, by the time the 4th accident comes and I do die, that is like a reckless behavior that I brought on myself, because I already know what can happen and they've given me enough chances. So like a drug addict usually has a couple of overdoses or situations before they actually cross. And you don't go right into the light necessarily. You go over, but you have to come back really quickly when you've done that. So you don't get off this planet because you take your own life, and you're not relieved of the pain because you have to deal with what your issues were. So you're born into a similar circumstance the next time. And so that's why these people need help. Like when Amanda's talking about that, they literally, maybe they're unaware. When you cross over, like let's say you're all medicated on morphine and you die, your heart stops, you die. You cross over, and they have like hospitals on the other side. I don't know how else to word that, but where they acclimate your body energy, which then becomes your soul energy, to a certain level so that you can then do your process and move on. That's my understanding. So they might need her help in making her a medium, by the way. It's the fact that she can pick that up. She is a medium. They may need her help crossing to the next level on the other side, not necessarily over, but understanding where they're to go, because it's such a shock. Sometimes people are thrown out of their bodies, and it's a shock. Like, it is a shock. If you ever watch that movie Ghost, I love that movie. I think it's hilarious. But when you watch Patrick Swayze and they shoot him or they kill him or they stab him, I forget which it is, but they murder him, and he's out of his body, he is not aware that he's dead. He's watching himself. Like, he's not aware. He's just there. And that movie is very accurate in its portrayal of somebody who's left their body too early, because he wants to figure it out before he actually goes into the light and crosses over, which is what we see. Even though it's written in a comedy, it's actually very accurate from my understanding. That's like my understanding of how it works when they tell me.
Let's go to Deb at #SpacedOutRadio on Twitter. And we got about 4.5 minutes here before we got to go to break. So she is asking, what do you do with a spirit that doesn't want to go, that maybe killed themselves?
Oh, that's a good question. That's annoying. I've had that. I've had clients walk in with people attached right behind them where I can actually see them. What you do, and they come in because they were people that took their lives, and then they enjoy being around their family still. And so they're living, or there's some reason that they're here. That's the first thing you have to figure out. You actually have to figure out why they're here, if you care to. Otherwise, if you don't care to figure out, you have every right, like shutting your front door in your house or your apartment or your trailer or your car. You have every right to say, I'm not going to deal with you. I'm not paying attention to you. And you can shut them out. You don't have to deal with them. They can't make you. They will get very rude, and they will try to bug you if they feel you can sense them. But you don't have to deal with them. And other than that, I encourage them to go in. I always say to them, I'm like, get out of here, go into the light. I'm trying not to be rude, but I'm like, you need to go into the light. And so sometimes you have to talk to them, like it's time. It's going to be okay. You're going to be, you're going to be safe. You just need to go into the light. A lot of times they're still trying to associate with what brought them happiness on the side, because the second they kill themselves, they know they made a mistake. They know it instantaneously, like before they're out of their body, they're like, oh no, I didn't just do that. They know instantaneously what they've done, and they try to, it's a fury. It's a hard thing, but I encourage them to leave. That doesn't mean they're going to listen to you. They have free will on the other side too. They can hang around. I just don't ignore them. Sometimes I see people I ignore them. I see them pop up, and I just like, okay, fine, whatever. I just like, I can't see you. I do what you want. And then once you ignore them a bit, they will move on. Or they may have a message for you, and maybe you try to understand what they're saying. Like, ask them, do you want something? Is there something you want? They may want to say something. And so, and you can also pray that they go, like you can ask their guides to come and help them. But again, it's up to them where they go. So it's kind of a catch-22 in that way. You can give them the information, like you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink, as you know.
We're going to try and slip in one question here. This one comes from Shar, and if you feel like you want to answer more of this after our first break, that would be great. She is asking, with everything you went through as a teenager going into your early 20s, did you have a lot of problems with negative spirits because of all the trauma you witnessed?
Yes and no. I saw a lot of, I called them shapeshifters in other people, like because if they were drunk or high, I could pick it up. I very I can't be around certain energies. So like if there's a bar and let's say it's 2 a.m. and everybody's drunk out of their minds, I can't really be around that because I can see what's on them and I can see where they're wounded. And so it's like, not uncomfortable. I just don't want it. It gives me a headache and I have to go. Yes, I did see a lot of negative, but I can still see that now. And I think the way I look at it is in this world, there's both positive and negative because you can't have positive without negative. So I understand the balance of energy between it. So I just looked at it as different. And so I know there's energy I'm comfortable around and energy I'm not comfortable around. So I looked at it more like that. But I mean, there were some things that were, what you would call evil. Absolutely. Negative, evil, bad. Yeah, there was a lot of that. And it can still come in if you're an open channel. I mean, if you open the door up, anything can walk in. I tend to do a lot of meditation. I do moving meditation, which is why I run and do that to strengthen my body energy fields. And I tend to start my work in the morning with a prayer, and it's always God-centered. So I believe that I'm safe under that. That's just my belief. That's how I choose to believe. But it doesn't mean you're not going to have negative things happen because it's not about whether you're good or bad. It's
right.
Just the energy of this planet.
I'm going to put you on hold right there, my friend. Sloan Bella is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio. She is a psychic to the stars in Hollywood and Los Angeles. Movie stars, entertainers, everybody flocks to her because she is just that good with her abilities, and we're going to learn more about her abilities, and some of the great stories she has in hour number 2 right after this. You're listening to Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott. We'll be back right after the break.
365 days a year, we're in the field, investigating UFO sightings, talking to alien abductees, and visiting secret military locations like Area 51. We're UFO Seekers, official partner of Spaced Out Radio. Follow our daily search for the truth at ufoseekers.com or like us on social media. Catch us on Spaced Out Radio every third Monday of the month as we discuss Area 51, UFOs, and more. And also, don't forget to subscribe to us on YouTube.
From coast to coast to coast, Blacklight Uncharted is taking on the paranormal across Canada. From ghostly hauntings to the UFOs flying above in conjunction with MUFON Canada, we're closely investigating what's going on in the northern skies and checking out the apparitions that walk among us. Check out our videos right here at spacedoutradio.com. We want to know your thoughts, we want to hear your experiences, and we want you to share your stories. The answers are out there, and we intend to find them.
Would you like to become one of our space travelers? All you have to do is click on the Space Travelers icon at spacedoutradio.com. For only $5 a month, you can get access to some great prizes, as well as private monthly shows, newsletters, and a members-only section on our website. Become a space traveler today.
It's paranormal news at its finest. Welcome to The Encounter. At spacedoutradio.com, The Encounter online is SOR's trusted news source for everything weird and strange going on around the world. This is news editor Eric Markham. Our team of journalists are scouring the planet for those strange stories that rarely make the mainstream. No fear-mongering or fake news here. Head over to spacedoutradio.com and encounter The Encounter.
Want to learn more about aliens, cover-ups, conspiracies, cryptids, and the paranormal? All you have to do is tune in S4 as we take over Spaced Out Radio Night, starting at midnight Pacific, 3 a.m. Eastern, each and every Saturday night, right after Spaced Out Saturdays. Hi there, this is Eric Cooper from Forest Moon Paranormal. Join me, Corey Ruiz, and friends as we discuss the hot topics of the night. It's fun, entertaining, and as dark as the night. Find us at spacedoutradio.com.
Hey, this is Canadian Paranormal Investigator Mike Moore. The third Wednesday of every month, I'll be teaming up with Dave Scott to bring you Ghosts of the Great White North. Each month, we will bring on guests from across Canada to discuss their ghostly encounters. Canada is a paranormal hotbed with stories you've never heard, so we're going to bring them to you. So get comfy on your Chesterfield, grab a donut, and join us, eh?
Are you an experiencer? Have you had run-ins with strange creatures you can't explain? ETs, Dogman, Bigfoot, werewolves? They're enough to scare the daylights out of anyone. Hi there, I'm Butch Witkowski from your Four Cop. And on the last Monday of every month, you can listen to me and the host, Dave Scott, talk about the weird and the strange being reported on Spaced Out Radio. I'm going to bring my investigations and sources, you bring your experiences, and we'll figure out the rest together. Strange Days on Spaced Out Radio. Come tune us in at spacedoutradio.com.
Want a place to share your experiences without feeling judged? We have the place for you. If you've experienced sightings or contact with ETs, ghosts, cryptids, or UFOs, and you'd like someone to confidentially look into the matter, just fill out an SOR Sightlines report. Our goal is to help you get the answers you need to the experiences you've had with our professional team of researchers. Your information stays 100% confidential. The SOR Sightlines report. Fill out your experience today only at spacedoutradio.com.
Psychic Sundays, spiritual communication, ET contact, Sasquatch in your backyard. We will have it all on Cosmic Passport with me, Elizabeth Anglin. Each Sunday, starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, at spacedoutradio.com, I will take you on a journey of enlightenment. The goal is learning from the soul on out. We'd love it if you joined our experience, Cosmic Passport, heard Sundays at spacedoutradio.com.
Are you interested in advertising on Spaced Out Radio? Head to our website at spacedoutradio.com and click on our advertising tab. There, you will find an assortment of ways you can get your product out there with us, from radio commercials to banners and social media. Have a product you like our hosts to endorse? We can do that too. Visit spacedoutradio.com for more details.
From British Columbia to Northern California, Pacific North Weird has Cascadia covered. Check out our feature videos at spacedoutradio.com, where I, Vincent Zunza, and my super sleuth partner Alexandra Sullivan track down the weird and strange stories from around the Pacific Northwest, from Bigfoot to Mel's Hole and everything in between. This is what makes life exciting. So why report the normal when we can report the Pacific North Weird right here at spacedoutradio.com.
Don't have time to listen to Spaced Out Radio live? Wherever you are, the car, the office, the shower, or even if you're traveling, we're right here for you. Each Spaced Out Radio show can be found on iTunes, TuneIn, and on our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio Show. It's the perfect way for you to catch up on our shows. For more information, just head over to our website, spacedoutradio.com, and tune in to us today.
Welcome to Spaced Out Saturdays with me, Dave Cruz from Beyond the Strange. Our weekly feature on spacedoutradio.com will take you around the world discussing everything from the paranormal to the latest conspiracies from the top guests in their fields. We won't leave any story uncovered. Spaced Out Saturdays at spacedoutradio.com starting 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern.
The views and opinions expressed by tonight's guest and topic of discussion do not necessarily represent the official policy or position of Spaced Out Radio, Spaced Out Weekend, Spaced Out Radio Limited, its hosts, syndicated carriers, or anyone associated with this broadcast. Would you like to connect with us? Head to spacedoutradio.com for all your latest show info. And hit us up on Twitter using the hashtag SpacedOutRadio. Now, back to Dave Scott and SOR.
Welcome back to the second hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott. Great to have you with us. Tomorrow night on the program, we have book publisher John Goodwin. He's going to join us and talk about the life of Jim Mars. That's tomorrow night at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern Time at spacedoutradio.com. We welcome in everyone listening in on WQEE 99 Rock the Key down in Noonan, Georgia, home of The Walking Dead. We are live as well on the United Public Radio Network, 107.7 FM in New Orleans and over 160 countries around the world. We're also live on KTLK, The Fringe FM, Renegade Talk Radio out of Las Vegas. And if you're listening in on Revolution Radio, remember the Double R Machine is a donation station financed by you, the valued listener. Head on over to freedomslips.com and donate today. Bill Cardwell has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club, Panoscorium. Panoscorium is your password. Make sure you use it wisely, space travelers, as Bill sets a password each and every night right here on the mighty SOR. Now, if you want to follow us on social media, you can do so on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio. Use the hashtag Spaced Out Radio if you want to connect with us live during the show as well. Give our Facebook page a like, Spaced Out Radio Show. Follow me on Instagram, Dave Scott, SOR. You can tune us in on TuneIn, subscribe and download our shows from iTunes. We're also on TalkStream Live and iHeartRadio in the United States. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including joining the SOR Space Travelers Club for $5 a month. Shop at our Spaced Out Radio store, pick yourself up some SOR swag, listen to some Bumblefoot, read up on the encounter online, watch UFO Seekers or Contact TV. We got it all at spacedoutradio.com. Now, I do want to say, if you're in the United States, you bought that Powerball ticket. If you're in Massachusetts, it might be yours for $758 million, minus the taxes. See, this is where it sucks, America, because up here in Canada, you win the lottery, you don't pay taxes on that. So you would get $758 million cold hard cash in your bank account. So if you're in Massachusetts, make sure you check your winning Powerball ticket, just in case you won, and old Davey would accept any donations at that point. Tonight we are talking with one of the top psychics, mediums, intuitives in California, and I'll say across North America, because I'm claiming her. She's Canadian. I'm claiming her, even though she lives in L.A. Sloan Bella is our guest tonight. Her website, sloanbella.com. If you want to find out more, or maybe book a reading or something along those lines. Sloan, welcome back.
Hi. I was like,
Hi.
oh, wait, are you talking to me? Yes,
Yeah.
hi.
Yes, that would be you.
I've
that
had
would
water.
be you. Yes, don't hit the water too much. Don't hit it too much. We
Yeah,
know there's
well.
a shortage in California. You know.
Yeah, so they say they're full of it, but yes, there's no shortage now.
Well, you know what?
We had so much rain, we cured it.
You know what? You got all of British Columbia's rain, because up here, I think I've seen maybe, I'm going to say, 30 hours of rain in the last 3 months.
Oh, really? We haven't had it in a couple of months, but over Christmas it was pretty
Yes.
much, and it apparently built back all the reservoirs. So I don't think we're in the bad part yet. I mean, I don't think we're in the deficit. I think we're above.
Yes. Well, you know what? Battling all those forest fires around here, which are still burning about 25, 30 miles away south of me right now. And you know the area I live in.
Oh, no.
Yeah. You know the
Yes,
area
I
I
do,
live in.
We have relatives up there. We used to take the kids skiing every Christmas. Absolutely. We used to take them up there. We'd make the trek. Yes, the trek from sunny Southern California by the winter clothes. I couldn't believe I was doing the reverse thing, you know. As a kid, we went from Toronto to Florida, you know, when we were little, and then I was doing the reverse. It was weird.
Well, I'm just hoping we get a very large snowfall this winter, because with all the forest fires that encroached on here a little bit too much, I would like to see some of that snow melt into the ground and cool things off, because it's just one of those things.
Absolutely.
I don't like forest fires.
Awful.
I've learned way too much about them over the last couple of months, and I'm done with them. I'm absolutely done with seeing forest fire smoke and breathing it in. And I can tell you right now, I got this big fire pit in my backyard that I love to sit out there on a nice starry night and roast marshmallows. But I am so sick of the smell of campfire and burning and fire and everything. I do not actually see myself, you know, using any of my wood pile down there until next year. It's just, I'm tired.
Well, you probably have to give it time to wear out. Yeah, you have to give the feeling time to wear out. Exactly.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Anyways, more about you here since we're here. Do you mind if we continue on with a few more of our audience questions, because they're kind of piled up?
Yeah, no, you do whatever is good for you guys.
Well, well, you're the guest, so this is your show, not mine.
I'm good. Yeah,
Okay.
I'm good.
All right. All right.
Yeah, I'm good with whatever.
When you talk about crossing over, this comes from Trip in our Spreaker chat room. Crossing over to where? Is it heaven or hell, or just being a ghost and staying here?
Oh, that's good. Well, I believe hell is closer to the earth plane than the other side. But actually, and I have to say it's from my experience, and I believe that everybody in our profession probably has different takes on it, different experiences with it. But what it actually is, from my understanding, it's a different dimension, almost like when you go into a dream and you have a very vivid dream and you feel like you're awake. It's kind of like that. And there are different levels or different places you go. People have come to me from all kinds of different things. And there used to be a guy, he passed away, a researcher in our field named Michael Newton that wrote extensively on lives in between our lives on Earth, if you believe in reincarnation. And so there's so many different levels. And I've talked to people of all kinds, in all kinds of different areas. And the ghosts that you're referring to that stay attached to the Earth's atmosphere or the Earth's energy grid, those ghosts, some of them, I would say like the ones that haunt castles in England or Scotland or wherever they are, Italy, those are people that maybe don't know they've died, and so they're so stuck in their pattern. Keep in mind there's no timing on the other side. So for 400 or 500 years, they can haunt a castle, and it's like the blink of an eye to them. But to us, I mean, we would have been born and here and back and forth a bazillion times in that 400 years. And sometimes people stay close to the Earth's atmosphere, not as a ghost, but as a spirit, because they're observing what the people that they left behind were doing, like we were talking about before, when there's suicide or, self-inflicted death, however you want to word that, they will stay attached to their family until they're ready to move on. So there's different circumstances, but there are many different places people go. Some people describe things that are, at least give me the impression in my mind when I'm communicating that there's many different things we can do. And some of them, talk about going. I've had many of my clients' relatives that have passed on talk about being in school and learning, not like high school, but being in a school and learning and, continuing to study. That comes through quite a bit, actually. So it's like they're learning. I believe it's on a soul level, or I don't know what they're learning. I don't quite understand that, but they do show me almost like college, I guess, dorms or classrooms. They give me that impression. So it's a higher education learning. That's what they're showing me. So they do that when they cross over. Sometimes they, they go in places, like I said, like hospitals, or where their energy is shut down for a while until they can process what they've done and they can handle it. Because sometimes when people die at stuff they've done that they didn't mean to do, it shocks the body, and so they have to be acclimated back to who the soul's vibration was to begin with. So there's all kinds of work. It really is an extension of here in a different way, and I don't know that it's, quote, heaven the way we think, like it's all going to be good. I think there's different levels. And I think if you are a newer soul, when you come into the Earth, like, I don't know, I'm more a newer soul. So you're doing all the naughty stuff on the planet that you can think of. When you cross over, you go through a different level than somebody who is, say, a Gandhi type person or a Mother Teresa type person. And they're going somewhere where I'm probably not going, okay, because of the altruistic work that they're doing. But you don't know, because it depends what your soul needs. So you have no idea, really. They come from everywhere, many different levels. But I think it's dimensional, like going into a dream state. So when you step out of your body, it's different. What I can tell you from my own experiences is my thing when I had a situation happen in the surgery and I stepped out of the back of my body, I went right out through my back immediately. I couldn't wait to get the hell away from here. I was like, I was in the room recovering from surgery, and I said, oh no. And I stepped right out, and I had a guide right there. And I remember wanting to explore. I remember thinking that, and I could hear the nurse, and I could hear my husband in the background, and I could hear them talking. But it was like they were like through a wall down the hall kind of thing. And I just remember thinking, I want to keep going with this guy. And I remember him grabbing my hand, and I wanted to go. But then I heard the nurse tell my husband to put his hand on my forehead and talk to me. And I heard my husband say very faintly, he actually said to the nurse, no, she's going to be really mad if I bring her back. She's going to be pissed off. And I remember thinking in my head, oh, he does listen. And then I went off with the guide, and then he put his hand on my head. And I remember sucking back into my body like a vacuum cleaner, just poof, right back into my body. And I woke right up. I said, what'd you do that for? And our conversation continued. So I don't know where I was going, but it started like that. It felt like an adventure to me, which felt like fun. That's just my perspective of it. But some people describe that. Some people describe, loneliness. My instinct from what they're saying, though, is we have choice in where we go with what we're willing to do or what we're willing to learn. That's my understanding of it.
Let's continue on with the audience questions here. This one comes from Teresa in our Spreaker chat room. She is asking, when someone commits suicide and they were angry, are they still angry on the other side? Do they ever find peace and go on?
That's a really good question, because we watch a lot of things on the media or in movies, and it shows, once you die, they say rest in peace. But that's not often the case, because the fact that you murdered yourself, which is what it is, you can't take another person's life, and therefore you cannot take your own life, because it's one and the same. We are the same. Even though we don't think of ourselves that way, we are. So it's an extension of the energy. Until the energy balances back with that person, until they actually understand why they were angry and how their behavior affected other people, and there's a whole process to that, I think they will remain in an angry state. Now, if they kill themselves, the only time I haven't heard that that's applicable is when somebody is seriously mentally ill, like for real, their body is defective and they're just insanely crazy. That's not held. So if they jump, off a bridge and they're like a running, hallucinating, crazy person, that's not looked at the same way as if you or I did it and we're relatively sane, only we're depressed and we think we're going to do this. It depends on the circumstance. But yeah, the person, whatever you left leaving this world, and I can tell you that from the people I deal with when they come in and someone's crossed over, many different personalities come to me, and they're not all glowing and white. Some of them are rude and loud, and some of them are shy and quiet, and because they show me who they are so that I can tell their people who they are. So they're different personalities. You don't just drop a personality. That would be more over lifetimes of learning how to assimilate into a different state of being. So that would be an evolutionary thing, I believe. So we would learn to take our anger and turn it in a different way over several lifetimes because of positions we were put in where we would become so angry, like whatever that may be. That's how I feel about it. But yeah, they wouldn't just get rid of it the minute they cross over. They do get rid of physical pain. You do not feel pain when you die. You feel pain when you live. So if you try to kill yourself and like you shoot yourself in the head and you live, that's the problem. If you die, that's not really the problem, because you don't feel the pain once you're out of the body. That I can tell you. You're taken right out of your body before the pain hits. So you don't feel it.
Let's get to Robert's question here. Robert's down in Australia, highly intuitive as well. And he says, I know the feeling I get when I am scanning a person for what ails them. I pick up a lot of their feelings as in pain or injury, almost like a mingling with the other person. Is that similar to what you experienced, Sloan?
Yeah, he's actually talking about reading their energy field, which you do. That's a good way to put it. That's more on an empathic level. So in medical intuitive, I believe, is what he's talking about for himself. Yeah, definitely. You do mesh with them. That's where the problem with doing this work can be. And of course, I forgot, what was his name? What did you say his name was?
Robert.
Robert, sorry. Your guest in your chat room. I'm like, and what's his name? Robert. Hi, Robert. But what Robert's saying when he's saying that, I'm sure he would agree that after he does his work, he probably gets physically exhausted, because we do use our energy centers to, well, he uses the word scan, but to assimilate with their energy so that we can pick up on it. That's a lot of what happens to people in our profession, and people who try to help people too. Like, let's say you're in the court system, or you're a hospital worker, or you're a surgery tech or whatever it is, you actually take your energy and morph it in with the other people. So you are going to get an energy drain on your part. And I bet you he's experienced that. But yes, I do experience the same kind of thing. When women come in, the funniest thing I've ever had happen is somebody come in and I'll be like, are you ovulating? And they'll look at me really strange. And they're like, yeah. I'm like, yeah, I can feel it. I can feel stuff like that when they sit down. Like I'm ovulating, but I'm not. That's a weird thing to say, but that's true.
Me too.
A weird, odd little
Me
trivia
too.
thing there.
No,
Yeah,
I'm
I know.
kidding. I'm kidding.
Well,
I'm kidding.
but see, if you were Robert, you might feel that. You might feel a pain going through, like where you're, the side of your belly button, and you might not know what the heck it is. That's exactly right. You would. Guy or girl, you're going to pick it up. I just happen to know what I was feeling because I'm a girl. So you might not know it, but describe it, and your client would say yes. So I bet you that's what happens to Robert. And yes, to answer that question.
All right, let's get to Amanda's question here. She is asking, did you ever prepare your clients in very subtle ways for their death without realizing until after their passing?
Yes, yes, absolutely. I don't know that it was necessarily subtle. It's always been when somebody's, and it's happened a few times, not a lot of times to me, but when I speak to somebody and they're going to pass, I tend to get, and I use this word all the time, but I get a psychic Tourette's. That's what I call it, because it's like I have Tourette's and I can't stop saying it to them. I know it's not the right thing to do. I know it's probably frightening, but whatever the issue is, I will repeat it over and over like an OCD weirdo with Tourette's. And I find because the energy is starting to brew, and I can pick it up. So you ever seen those movies? And this is a bad thing to say, but have you ever seen the movies where like somebody walks through the zoo and there's monkeys in the cages and then they start going bananas in their cages? I feel like that when someone's going to pass. That's how I feel. And I start bouncing off the walls. And I try not to say it out loud to them. I had a client years ago. It's probably been 6 or 7 years ago. She's lovely. She had breast cancer maybe like 20 years ago. I didn't know her when she had breast cancer. She came to me. She was fine. She was fine. She was fine. I'd see her like every month and a half, worried about the ex-husband, the kids, whatever. And one day she came in and I again, with my smell what I thought was mothballs on her, which to me means a person is developing cancer in their body. That's what I've observed for me. So that's like the way that I pick it up. But I remember saying, you should probably go get checked. And she's like, no, I remember her saying, it's been 10 years since I had breast cancer. It got so bad for me that she wouldn't listen to me and actually stopped coming to me for appointments because I said, you have cancer. You need to go to a doctor. You need to get it checked. Like I was insane. I said, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. If I'm crazy, I'm crazy, but just humor me and go. I went as far as to phone another client that introduced me to her to tell her about it. Anyway, by the time she got to the doctor, it was too late and she passed. But it wasn't subtle for me. I'm not subtle about it, unfortunately. I tend to jump up and down like a maniac until they hear me. And I try not to be rude, but I can't help it. My body goes into that like a jumping monkey in the zoo. I'm going to say that. That's how I feel.
And you don't have a reality TV show over that yet?
No, I don't, but I really do feel like that. I can see, I can't stop saying it. In fact, I'll answer the other questions of your clients, but I'll tell you a story towards the end if you're interested about somebody where I was actually living their death process like an insane person. It made me mentally ill. Everybody in my house was like, stop this. Like, this is a problem. You have a problem. And then I didn't know she was going to die. I didn't know who I was picking up. But when she died, all my symptoms left. So that kind of thing happens quite a bit. But it's never subtle for me. I don't think I'm a subtle person. I'm just thinking. I might not be. So for my personality, it doesn't come through subtly. But yes, I have prepared people. The girl I was talking about who I tried to help, whose husband died, when he came to me, he said, I'm not coming to her. She's going to be over here soon enough. I repeated that, which means I can't read him because he's waiting for you to go to him, and you shouldn't be. So that's not really subtle, but I get things like that.
Fellow Canadian Michelle at #SpacedOutRadio has a very important question for you.
Excellent.
Yes, because, we're Canadian and all, and we love our bacon. She's wondering, is there bacon in the afterlife? Because we may need to know this.
Okay, that's hilarious. I hate bacon.
What?
I'm laughing. I guess I'm not a good Canadian. No, that's an hilarious question.
The knife in the heart right there. Oh, just turn it.
I know. No, there's been a no bacon rule in my house for years. I can't handle the smell of it.
I'm like that with fish.
I don't know what it is about it.
I
don't know what it is about it. I go bananas. I'm just like, that's it. I can't. If somebody's eaten it in here, I'm like, who's done that? Who's done it? Who's done it? Everybody scatters off to another room. I'm like, no, when I catch you, they hide the evidence. I'm like,
yes.
But to answer your question, let's just look at this logically. Michelle, a fellow Canadian over there. You can have bacon in the afterlife if you think you need that. Some people cross over and until they learn that they're dead, they need to live their life like they're alive. Okay, so the ritualisticness of what they did in human form, so their breakfast, their exercise, their hair appointments, whatever, they drink their tea, they drink their coffee. These things are presented to them until they realize they don't need it, because we don't actually do that. But some of us do that because we don't let go of the life for some time while we're on the other side. So we need those things until we can handle it emotionally, which would be energetically, to know that we're dead. Kind of like that movie, now I forgot it, with Bruce Willis. What was that? I See Dead People. Remember that movie?
Sixth Sense.
Yes, thank you. He's dead the whole time, but he doesn't know it, and then it hits him and it shocks him. Right? I mean, that's the whole point of it. Did I just give away the movie to everybody?
No.
But it's been out long enough.
Yeah, it's been out. I think you're safe with that one.
Yeah, it's been out. I'm good. But it's exactly like that. Or it's like that show, I think it was Nicole Kidman. She did the movie, I want to call it The Others, but she was a mother with 2 children and they couldn't open the windows because of the light. The light was actually the other side, and she's the one that had committed the murders, and she wasn't willing to face that. You see, she'd killed everybody, and she kept the other souls with her, her children on that other side, and the whole movie was about her coming to the realization that the light was the good part and that she wouldn't be going into the light because she'd murdered her 2 children.
You know what?
So
I've heard a true story about that. Where I used to live in British Columbia, there was an old reformatory school for First Nations children, and they allowed this paranormal team to go in there, and they actually picked up one of the priests, Catholic priests, who wasn't very priest-like, shall we say. And he is holding he is holding those children inside the reform school because he will not allow them to go to the light because he's afraid of what's going to happen to him.
That's exactly it, because he's the one that abused them and did whatever god awful thing he did.
Yes,
that's exactly right. That happened. And so that's what that movie's about. I don't know if they knew about that story and just twisted it into a mother and her kids. But that's exactly right. So sometimes until a soul, even just think about this. Let's say you kill your children and kill yourself. Nobody we know is going to do this, okay? Because that's just horrific. But let's say you've done it and you just did it in some kind of emotional tizzy, and you wake up on the other side. You may not be able to handle what you've done, and so they may have to inch it to you, so they keep your kids around. I don't know why it would work like that, but I can definitely see it happening, and I believe it does happen, actually. When we can handle what has happened, we move on. That's what I believe.
Let's get to Char's question, because she's been waiting like 30 minutes for it. She is asking, have you ever seen a person's guardian angel at death?
Ooh, interesting. I don't believe I actually have. So I would have to say no, not in my personal experience that I'm aware of. The people that I've been around when they're literally dying, what I've seen when they leave their body, I've seen them talking to people if I've known the people as their relatives. I've seen them talking to people that aren't there, that are there but aren't there. And when they actually pass, in every case where I've been with somebody when they passed away, I see their energy leave their body, and it leaves in color. So I don't see it like their physical form. I see it in color, and I always see it the same way. It goes up through their body. So I can see the life leave them from the bottom of their body up. And it's usually, for me, when I've seen it in these people, a vivid, it's burgundy and it's the darker colors and it's gray, but there's some light mixed in, and I can feel it. It's almost like I can feel it and see it, and it's thick and it leads up through the body, and I can see it until it shuts down everything and it works its way up. I see it like that. But I haven't actually seen someone to cross them over. I'm trying to think back. When my best friend passed away when I was a teenager, he didn't even come to me with his guide, but he came to me dressed like a guide. So he was in the thick gown with the curtain roping, and he was adorned in light. He died in a motorcycle accident, so it was nothing he did to himself. Someone else actually did it to him. But when he came to me and he came through the ceiling, and he came adorned in the light, but I still didn't see a guide around him or a guardian angel. But they're there. I mean, I can see who crosses people over. Like when somebody says, I'm coming to see if you can connect with my father, mother, brother, friend, whoever, I can see who crosses them over. Like they will show me images of the people that cross them over, and I'm able to describe it, but I don't actually see it while it's happening, which is interesting.
I actually got to witness one of these types of situations when my wife's grandmother passed away. I knew the angel of death was in there. I recognized his energy, and I taunted him so much that I did, and I was brazen about it. I taunted him so much that finally it was kind of like he said, "Is this what you want to see? Is this what it's about?" And I watched him. I didn't see him, but I watched Grandma's spirit come right out of her body, and I know he held it there for me to look at. And I am literally at Grandma's feet, so this is about 2.5 feet, 3 feet away from me. And I'm seeing this football-shaped cloud coming right out of her body, and he's holding it there. Nobody else in that room saw that but me. My mother-in-law was in there. My wife was literally my arm was around her on my right. And then all of a sudden, both his energy and I watched that spirit cloud shoot right through the ceiling, and everything was gone. And 9 minutes later, Grandmother breathed or took her final breath.
Interesting.
It was
interesting, but you didn't see him in physical form, right?
I didn't see him. No.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. I don't see it, but you know it. There, yeah, you know it, but you don't actually see it the way I think she was asking. Like if you see it, but no, I haven't. But you felt it and you saw it, so you observed it, but just in a different way.
Yes, exactly. Let's get to Tripp's question here. He says, "Can repeatedly thinking, calling, and praying one's name actually keep them from the journey that they are meant to be on?"
Okay, you mean when they die or just in life?
Yes, when they die.
So if we keep praying and
thinking, keeping their thoughts together, saying, "I wish they were still here. Why aren't you still here?" Does that keep them from moving on in their journey to the other side?
I don't believe so, but I do believe if they feel that you need them there, that can keep them. Like, let's say you're a small child and your mommy dies and you're like 5 or 6, and instinctually the mom knows that the kid needs the mom. She may stay around a little bit longer of her own choice because of that. But because I want my relative, friend, lover, whoever has passed to be here with me, and I may miss them, they don't usually stay there. Usually so pulled over to the other side. And in fact, they'll come in and out at times, but they don't usually stay around like that. Like, I don't think you can control it. I think they have free will. Now, if you're probably, I would only see it in reference of like parent and child or something along those lines, where somebody, like, let's say somebody dies and their spouse is about to die, they may stay close to them until they can help cross them over, something like that. But just the act of prayer itself, I mean, it's usually not going to keep them tied here. It's going to send good energy, but it's not going to stop them. I think you can wish that you had them around you without holding them here.
I would agree with that.
It's more, I'm just thinking, I had one person I talked to, and she was angry at her boyfriend that had passed away, and she actually was keeping him tied to her because she wouldn't forgive him for what he'd done. His behavior, she wouldn't forgive it. And so he was waiting for that approval of her forgiveness, which is a weird thing to say, but he was attached to her because of that. He couldn't move on because of it. But it didn't have to do with prayers and positive. It had to do with the fact that she was pissed off and angry.
Here's an interesting...
He didn't feel comfortable. Yeah, he didn't feel comfortable moving on until he reconciled that with her for some reason.
All right, I jumped the gun there. I apologize.
Yeah, no, I thought about it after.
All right.
I have Tourette's, remember?
All right, John's question, and this goes into my favorite topic. Have you ever encountered extraterrestrial beings in your experiences, either physical or non-physical?
Definitely 100%. And now I will tell you the story of that nonsense. I call it nonsense because it caused me a lot of trouble, but very true. When I was a young kid, super young, 4, I used to wake up in the middle of the night surrounded around my bed with tall, like they were super tall to me. I was a little kid, but like 6 feet tall. And there was like 12 of them around my bed, and they looked like nomadic Bedouins. So they were cloaked in like Egyptian desert walking garb. And when I looked at their eyes, they looked like bugs. So I called them earwig men. I've said this always my whole life. And it's part of what started a rift in my family between my father and I, because he literally thought he was looking for bugs in my bedroom. But I was talking about these beings, and they were not spirit. They were definitely alien. I knew that when I was little. They appeared in my bedroom around my bed from the age of approximately 4 till I was 10 in that time. And every single night I checked under my bed, checked around my bed. They did not show up around me when I was not in my house, like when I was away at summer camp or I was visiting somebody. They did not show up. And after the age of 10, I did not see them. But I have seen other aliens. And it's weird because I always assumed aliens come dimensionally. That was my thinking, as opposed to the ships, the spaceships, because I felt it was more of a dimensional through a veil thing, like more like there's a curtain and a veil, and we have to be able to get through that energy to see them. And I have seen in recent years, I've seen them again, but I've seen them behind me, and it's always when I'm by myself and I'm high up on a mountain trail. I've seen them behind me, and I've actually seen a ship. And so my kids have seen ships, but the aliens were around me as a kid, and I believe that is part of the reason I am like I am. Emotionally, I think they were working with my energy. Come to think of it, they didn't do anything to harm me that I'm aware of. It was not a harmful thing. Like, I didn't experience pain, or I wasn't abducted that I'm aware of. If I was, it was okay because it's not bothering me. But I do think they were working with my energy so that I could do the work that I do. But in the last 3 years, I've seen them weirdly up here over the 210 freeway. I was hiking on that side of the trail, and I actually saw them, and I looked behind me because I could feel them looking at me. I was on a trail by myself. Like, I was hiking for a couple hours and there was nobody around me, but I felt something. So I thought somebody was coming behind me on a mountain bike or something, or an animal. I turned around and I could see, it's almost like the layer of the sky parted, and I could see a huge black ship. That was about 3 years ago. And then I felt the nomadic, I called them nomadic, the alien people, earwig men. I felt them behind me, and I caught a glimpse of 3 on the trail, but it's like there was time and space between us. So I don't quite know what I was seeing, but that would be within the last 3 years. From the age of 10 till about 3 years ago, I'm not aware of seeing them any other time. But yeah, I did.
My last experience was last night, 23 hours ago, during the show.
Excellent. How did that happen?
I had a head go past my window, kind of silhouette past my window.
Oh.
And then a couple of the psychic people who listen to this show started picking him up. And actually, to be honest with you, Mrs. SOR, who is highly empathic and a Reiki master, she's actually been picking him up. She said, well, I'm not sure if he's actually left or there's somebody else here now. So apparently, I learned this during the break, that there might be more visitors here. What do you think?
Excellent.
What do you think?
Well, I think
help
that
me
you're
out.
in the profession. No, I think that you're in the profession, so I definitely feel like they'd be around you because you wouldn't be in the profession of it to have them not come around you. But I do feel like some may be, quote, alien, but I also feel like some are people. So I do feel I actually feel one who's I almost want to say like a minister. I don't know what other word to use. I can actually see a guy walking around. I feel like he was somebody who ministered to people. That's what I feel. I don't know if he's attached to your family. He doesn't feel like a family member, but he feels like a minister.
His name's Rick.
Do you know is that a minister? Do you know who that is?
Yes. Well, I don't know he was a minister, but I know I've seen him a couple of times. He actually keeps my yard free of bears.
Yeah, so he isn't like, okay, so why don't you like the bears?
Oh, I love the bears. I don't like cleaning up.
Good.
I don't like cleaning up after them, and because we have the little guy, him and I have a deal. I asked him if he wanted to cross over, and he actually stated that he really likes our yard and just hangs out. And he was very apologetic. Typical Canadian ghost. He's like, I'm sorry, don't worry though. I don't come in the house. I just like the yard. So I said, well, can you do me a favor? And he's like, sure. I said, we got the little guy. And I really don't want any bears or cougars in the yard. And the one time our garbage cans were getting knocked over. And ever since then, I have not had a garbage can overturned, including after the evacuation from the forest fire where there was this giant black bear walking around our area. And I literally, when I took the garbage, all the rotten food from our fridge, because our power was off for 4 days. So we had to clean out our fridge immediately when we got home. And so we clean out our fridge, and I go and I put the garbage, all this rotten food, in my garbage can. Now you think, that is Bear Central. You know what I'm saying? Bear Central. And I said to him, Rick, I need a favor because garbage day isn't until Thursday. I said, I need that bear to stay away from this garbage can because I really don't want to clean up this mess. And 2 nights later, my wife, who puts our little guy to bed because I'm doing the show, she walks past his bedroom window, which is in the front of the house, and then she texts me. She goes, there's a man, the shadow of a man standing between your vehicle and the garbage can. And I said, good. I said, that's Rick. He's doing his job. That's awesome. My garbage never got...
Okay.
My garbage never got knocked over.
I want to call him a minute. I think I want to call him a minister. So his profession may have been to minister to people is the word I want to use with him.
Right.
And that's kind of what he's doing with you, just not in a religious way, but in he's ministering to attend to what you need. But that's the word that was coming through. But yeah, I see him. Yeah, I see him around you. And I'm sure you're going to open up more. People are going to come in and out as you talk to different people and as you deal with different people.
Yes. As I had one of my friends, astral travelers, check out my house one day because we had some bad energy in here. He goes, holy crap, Dave. He goes, your house is like a Kmart blue light special for the strange, odd, and weird. He's like, I got Sasquatch energy. He's like, I got Sasquatch energy in the backyard. He goes, I got alien energy all over the place. You got this fire elemental who won't let me in the house, plus all the ghosts and nymphs and fairies all around. He's like, what the hell is going on? I said, welcome to my world.
Yeah, sometimes they come around. That's exactly what they do. That's exactly what they do. If you're open, you're open, so they'll find you.
Yeah, we're kind of open around here. I'm not going to lie. We're a little open around here. But is that alien guy here? Can you pick him up, or do you need some time?
No, it's interesting. I don't actually feel like he's there that's right as you're talking to me. I feel it's weird. I feel like you've actually asked to figure out what they do when they're aliens. That's a weird thing to say. So I feel like you'll be making a decision whether you'll be going more into their world or not. I don't know how to word that without sounding like a weirdo.
It makes sense.
I feel like you're going to make a decision about whether to explore their world more. There's a negotiation going on between you and them about whether you actually want to understand it fully, because it's going to take your mind in a different way, if you will. And so I feel like that's actually what's going on around you. Like, will this happen? Won't it happen? I think you've been considering it, but not sure whether you should bring it on or not. That's actually what I think.
Oh, that's so funny. That is so funny, because it's so accurate, because I've literally put the energy out there that said, I know I've been taken before. I actually woke up on the table one day when they were implanting me. But I've literally told them, I'm done with these nighttime dream things that go on. Could it be an experience or is it a dream? And I've demanded. I've said, look, if you're coming to get me, I got to be awake. So they've been testing me over the last couple of weeks. Yesterday was twice.
That's what I'm seeing, whether you're going to go with them. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or learn. Yeah.
Yeah. And Carl, the guy, the gray who keeps screwing me around here, him and I was yelling at him last night. I said, damn it, Carl, where are you? I got your youngster up here running around my driveway freaking out right now. Where the hell are you? I need you, Carl. Let's do this. And from my buddy R. Keith Andrews, who is our resident ET expert, he's actually saying that that they, to confirm what you just said, he said they are testing me right now, because the last time, just a few weeks ago, when we had another situation around here, Keith was telling me that Carl, the gray-headed guy, or the alien gray guy, he was there with two of his buddies in my backyard. And his two buddies were kind of reticent because they couldn't understand why I wasn't freaking out. Why I was like, come on, show yourself. Let's do this. It's time.
Okay.
And they were kind of They were. Yeah, you're picking this up now, aren't you? I could tell.
Yeah, well, that's what I said. That's what I said to you. I said, without sounding weird, but if you want to explore more about what that's about, obviously you can choose not to do it. But if you want to explore more into their world, that's why they're around you. Although I don't feel like he's around you right this second, but that's why they're around you.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And by the way, the gray one that you call Carl, I don't believe he's really a gray. I believe there's a different form to him.
Okay.
So he hides under that look, like it's like a wig, like a mask. Okay. He hides under that. I don't believe that's actually what he is at essence.
What do you think?
I don't believe that. He's something else. Well, I think he's in an alien form, but he's not a gray. There's something else in there. He's smarter than that. That's a mean thing to say, but he's smarter than that. He's pretending to be something so that you're thrown off guard. So you should watch that.
I will.
He's a little bit of a trickster.
You know what? I know, because he keeps standing me up on the anniversary of him showing up at my window during this broadcast on April 20th, 2015. So he keeps standing me up.
Interesting.
Yes. I was 7 feet away from him while I was broadcasting this show. And he needed a name, so that's why I gave him the name Carl.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay. Yeah, he's a little bit of a trickster.
Yeah.
That's what I'm going to call him.
Yes. I will let you know how that goes. Next time I see you, I will have a Damn It Carl t-shirt ready for you next time.
Excellent. I would like that.
Exactly.
Damn it, Carl, because he's a tricky. I was going to cuss, but he's a tricky. I'm trying to be polite.
Yes.
He's a tricky one.
I do not get, neither me or my two psychic extraterrestrial contactee friends get the point or get that he is of a negative being.
It's not that. He's just tricking you so that you're not aware of what he's up to. It's more like he wants you to go with him, so he's trying to take away maybe more of your free will than you would want. So he's making it like the deal's sweet, so you'll do it. So it's more like that.
Well, I'm ready. I need to see this space thing, man. I need to see this.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, yeah. And as we are talking, now my implant in the back of my head starts going crazy. Thank you. There's my confirmation. Appreciate that. Let's move on.
Okay, so wait. Hold on. I have to ask you if you know it's there.
Yeah.
If you know it's there, can you get it out?
I don't know. It might hurt my head to get it out.
I would think so. I just have to say this about the implant thing before, if you have 2 seconds with this. A couple of years back in the early mid-2000s, 2003 to like 2005, in that time frame, really like 75% of the people that I used to see physically for readings that would come to me in, not over the phone, but in physical presence, I noticed that they had, they were asking the same questions. They were talking about implants, all of them, like, and not just like one crazy person or one sane person. I mean, every different walk of life. And when they would sit down in front of me, I would see tubing coming out of like their face. Okay. But it wasn't really there, but I was seeing it, and it was going up in above them. And then it would go into a different space where I couldn't see what it was attached to. But I believe that had something to do with the implant. It's like they were testing them, and there was this tubing I could see around them. And I don't know what that was. I don't know if they were doing something with their energy or trying to feed them something. I couldn't figure it out. But it happened so much in like that 2 or 3 year time frame, and then I haven't seen that again. So I think they were doing a lot of implanting around then. When do you feel like you were implanted?
September 30th of 2014.
Oh, just recently. Okay, they must be back at it strongly then. Okay.
Yeah, I actually...
I'm just wondering. I think they go in cycles. For some reason.
I actually woke up on the table while they were doing it. It felt pretty cool.
Oh, God.
No,
yeah,
it felt pretty cool, actually. Once I got over the screaming and I calmed down, it felt pretty cool. And then, here's the funny part. As they are working on me, I got my face buried in this donut thing. You know, like a massage table, your face goes into that donut so you can breathe. So as they're working on me, and I hear this, what I think, I'm going to use the term saw, cutting open my scalp, and they're trying to get this in me.
Jesus.
I had the biggest urge that I had to pee. And then I had to break the seal.
It probably hit that center of your brain.
When you're in a good nightclub, let's say you're at the Roxy or you're at the Whiskey A Go Go listening to some Guns N' Roses back in the day, or the Rainbow with Motorhead or whatever, and you don't want to break that seal because you know that it's going to be every 10 minutes after that. So you might as well just live in the bathroom the rest of the night. That's how powerful that was. So I started yelling at them. I said, guys, you got to hurry up and get me back because I'm going to piss all over your table if you don't hurry up. And I kept repeating this until finally I wake up on top of my covers with my face buried in my pillow, and I am running to the bathroom while my right hand is holding the back of my head because my head is just going thump, 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 thump. I got that heartbeat thing going on, and I must have stood there for about 5 minutes. It was brutal. And I'm like, holy cow, did that just happen? I used a different word, but apparently it did. Now every time I tell that story, my implant goes, it starts to pulsate, shall we say.
Huh, interesting.
Yeah.
That's interesting. So it's being activated. So they're maybe it's letting them know that people know, so they know who knows about them.
Maybe.
Something along those lines. Interesting.
Only happens when I tell the story. I know. That's
weird.
Confuses me.
I don't know. Yeah, I'm trying to figure out why. See, it's also different with everybody. It's so, it's very different with all kinds of different people.
So I just leave it there. I'm not too worried about it. I figure if they want to come get it, they can come get it. I'm in no rush.
That's right, they can.
I'm in no rush, just as long as Carl comes and picks me up for my trip, and it gives me enough time to pack a bag or something like that, because, I definitely I'm addicted to brushing my teeth. So I would definitely need my toothbrush and my toothpaste, So as long as I could get that in, I'm good.
Right, exactly. So that's good. So you can take that, even though you might not need it.
So that's the alien stuff going on here. It's kind of crazy around here right now. And I have a feeling after the show that it's going to be a lot of alien talk.
Exactly. They're bossy.
Yeah, come on up. Or maybe if I go tonight, we'll come down and get you and say hello. How about that?
Okay, super. I'm putting my protection around my bed now.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Hey, at least nothing is moved by my window. That's the main thing. I keep watching my window tonight because you never know what's going to happen. But you know what, Sloan? I'm going to put you on hold. We're already through 2 hours here. I can't believe it. We got so much more to discuss. We have so many more audience questions to get to. And I want to know what it's like being a psychic to the stars. How weird is that? Some famous millionaire movie star coming up saying, when am I going to get my next role? Why isn't anybody hiring me? I need to know this. You're listening to Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott. Sloan Bella is our guest. You can find her website at sloanbella.com. I highly suggest you check it out. Maybe get yourself a reading. Treat yourself. Indulge. Spaced Out Radio. Final hour coming up right after this. We will be right back on the Mighty SOR.
We're getting strange on Saturday nights. Hi there, this is Dave Cruz, and each Saturday, starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, I will take you on a tour of the weird and obtuse on Spaced Out Saturdays, from aliens to Sasquatch and every tinfoil hat in between. We got you covered. Join us at spacedoutradio.com for Spaced Out Saturdays. See you there.
Not ready for bed on Saturday night? Right after Spaced Out Saturdays, hop on over to S4 with Corey Ruiz and me, Eric Cooper from Forest Moon Paranormal. With S4, there are no limits to what we try and uncover. From government conspiracies to helping clean up the paranormal, no topic is safe on S4. We get to the heart of the matter, of the subjects you want to learn more about. So tune in on S4 starting at midnight Pacific, 3 a.m. Eastern, only on spacedoutradio.com.
Have you had an experience you can't explain? Would you like someone you can trust to look into it? We have just the place. The SOR Sightlines Report is the place for you to find answers. Whether it's Bigfoot, UFOs, Dogman, ghosts, aliens, or anything strange, the Sightlines Report will get you connected with one of our expert researchers to find out what's going on. All of your personal information is kept 100% confidential. The SOR Sightlines Report, a place for you to find the answers you need. Only at spacedoutradio.com.
Hi there. I'm Butch Witkowski, lead investigator with U4COP. On the final Monday of every month, you can listen to me and host Dave Scott on Spaced Out Radio's Strange Days. We're going to get to the heart of the matter when it comes to what's happening out there. People are seeing and experiencing things from ET contact to Bigfoot, and I want to hear about it. Your experiences are what we investigators need to help solve these unknown mysteries. So tune in at spacedoutradio.com to the final Monday of every month from Butch Witkowski's Strange Days.
This is Eric Markham, news editor for the Spaced Out Radio's The Encounter Online. We have put together a great team of writers and journalists from all over the world to bring you top-quality paranormal stories. From alien encounters to the latest conspiracies, you won't find any of that fake news here. True stories and top-notch reporting as we look to bring these experiences to the mainstream. The Encounter online, only at spacedoutradio.com.
Do you want to know the truth? Do UFOs exist? Are aliens real? Are the governments hiding the biggest secret in history? We're UFO seekers, and we're on a hunt for the truth. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow along with us as we journey across the United States, visiting UFO hotspots and alien hotspots, trying to document the UFO phenomenon. Catch us on Spaced Out Radio every third Monday of the month as we discuss Area 51, UFOs, and more. And also, don't forget to subscribe to us on YouTube.
Patrolling the Pacific Northwest, we are always on the lookout for the strange and unassuming stories that real people are experiencing. Hi, I'm Vincent Zunza from Pacific North Weird. Me and Alexandra Sullivan have teamed to bring to you those odd stories that never seem to make it into the mainstream. Stories so weird that will leave you scratching your head wondering, is this real? It's as real as it gets with Pacific North Weird. You can watch our videos right here at spacedoutradio.com.
Become more intimate and interactive with Spaced Out Radio. Join our Space Travelers Club with your new membership. For $5 a month, we'll provide you with special access to the website, monthly prize draws from books to psychic readings, along with monthly newsletter, private interviews, and more. Sign up today to be part of Spaced Out Radio's experience.
Looking for a place to advertise at a very reasonable cost? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. SpacedOutRadio.com has an advertising tab that you can click to check out our daily, weekly, and monthly packages to play on the radio, or our website including social media. From commercial spots to banners, we have it all. Check out our competitive pricing today.
Don't have time to listen to Spaced Out Radio live? Wherever you are, the car, the office, the shower, or even if you're traveling, we're right here for you. Each Spaced Out Radio show can be found on iTunes, TuneIn, and on our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio Show. It's the perfect way for you to catch up on our shows. For more information, just head over to our website, spacedoutradio.com, and tune in to us today.
You hear footsteps in the empty room above you. A rocking chair begins rocking by itself. Don't be afraid of the things that go bump in the night. Reach for Spirit Storybox, the iPhone app the Huffington Post UK called the only ghost hunting app you will ever need. Spirit Storybox. The spirits are telling their stories. Are you listening?
Strange creatures lurking in the night, the sounds of wood knocking in the forest, odd happenings right out of a fictional world. These are the reports I love. Hi there, this is author Ronald Murphy, and I would love it if you join me and Spaced Out Radio host Dave Scott the second Wednesday of every month on our journey into the unknown land of cryptozoology at spacedoutradio.com. From Mothman to Frogman and everything in between. Hey, they don't call me the crypto guru for nothing.
It's Cosmic Sundays with me, Elizabeth Anglin, in Cosmic Passport. Let me take you down a 3-hour spiritual journey where we will get into everything from ET contact to Psychic Sundays. It's a journey of listening and learning together with some of the best professionals in their fields. You can tune in to Cosmic Passport at spacedoutradio.com every Sunday, starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern.
The views and opinions expressed by tonight's guest and topic of discussion do not necessarily represent the official policy or position of Spaced Out Radio, Spaced Out Weekend, Spaced Out Radio Limited, its hosts, syndicated carriers, or anyone associated with this broadcast. You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott. Follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and hashtag Spaced Out Radio. And on Facebook, Spaced Out Radio Show. Now, back to the program.
A child grew up too fast, went running wild. Now we don't know who to pray to anymore.
Welcome back to the final hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott. Great to have you with us. Tomorrow night on the program, book publisher John Goodwin is going to join us. We're going to talk about the life and times and the publications of Jim Marrs, who passed away just a couple of weeks ago, a legend in the paranormal field and ufological field. We're going to talk starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern time at spacedoutradio.com. We want to welcome in everyone listening in on WQEE 99 Rock the Key down in Newnan, Georgia, home of The Walking Dead. We are live as well on the United Public Radio Network, 107.7 FM in New Orleans, and over 160 countries around the world. Great for you to join us as well. We're live on KTLK, The Fringe FM, Renegade Talk Radio out of Vegas, and if you're listening in on Revolution Radio, remember the Double R Machine is a donation station financed by you, the valued listener. Head on over to freedomslips.com and donate today. Bill Cardwell has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club, Panoscorium. Panoscorium is your password for tonight. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as Bill sets the password each and every night right here on the mighty SOR. Now, if you want to follow us on social media, let's start on Twitter, at Spaced Out Radio. Use the hashtag Spaced Out Radio if you want to connect with us live during the show. Give our Facebook page a like, Spaced Out Radio Show. Follow me on Instagram, Dave Scott, SOR. You can tune us in on TalkStream Live, iHeartRadio in the United States, TuneIn, and subscribe and download our shows from iTunes. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including shopping at our Spaced Out Radio store, read the Encounter online, rock out to some Bumblefoot. For $5 a month, you could join the SOR Space Travelers Club, watch some videos from UFO seekers, and Contact TV, everything at spacedoutradio.com. For the final time tonight, I introduce our guest, psychic medium Sloan Bella out of California. She's a psychic to the stars and to the people who need it most. Her website, sloanbella.com. Sloan, welcome back.
Hi there. I'm back.
Hello.
I'm back.
Good to have you with us. I know there is a lot of questions still from our audience. I'm going to burn through a few of those, and then I want to ask you what it's like having someone who we look at very confidently, and I'm not going to pick out names because I do know there's confidentiality agreements and everything like that, but what it's like to be a psychic to the stars. So let's get to Ron's question.
Gotcha.
First of all. He's saying, how do you help people cross over?
Oh, that's a good question. Okay, if they're willing to be helped, okay, if they're willing to be helped, what you do is you encourage them and let them know that they are, in fact, sometimes they don't know they've passed over, they're dead. So you let them know that, and then you encourage them to go into the light. That's what you should be saying all the time. It's safe to go into the light. You can say prayers around them. You can meditate on them doing it. But again, keep in mind, it's up to them whether they actually want to listen to you and do it. You sometimes have to have long-term conversations with them, like for a long time on end, for them to cross over because they just don't believe it. And this could be their own issue. So you just encourage them to do it, but ultimately the choice is theirs. That's the way that is.
All right, let's get to Alan's question here. He's wondering about you personally. How many different lives have you lived and where?
Oh, he's funny. I couldn't tell you. I'm sorry. I'm laughing. That's such a funny question. It's a great question. I'm laughing because if I actually thought about that, I'm probably liable to jump out another window. But I can recognize 11 over my lifetime. I'm sure there's been more. I'm sure we're all on this cycle of coming back and coming back. But I have memories of 11. And where I get confused personally, is it the most recent past life or not? I believe I came to the most recent past life, and that was one in England, and that was in the 1700s. I can remember that, but my oldest son, when he was little, under 2, told me he remembered me down the street with his uncle. He literally just said it when he woke up one morning, and it was before Henry Ford made the cars. Those were his words, not mine. And he goes, "Oh, I remember you." Like, yes, you saw me when you went to bed. I'm your mother. But he was talking like this. So that seems to me to be more like in the early, like late 1800s, early 1900s here. And then I have vivid memories of being male in a lot of lifetimes, which makes perfect sense to me because I think I have that attitude. But I couldn't tell you really. I vividly can see 11. And I've meditated. And if you guys want to do this, you can try this if you want to or not. But how I access it, I do it in one of two ways. I stand in front of a mirror, like a mirror in your bathroom, a mirror in your hallway, wherever. And I kind of let my eyes go out of focus while I'm thinking about past lives, and I see what I can see in the mirror, and faces will start showing up to me. I know they belong to me because it's kind of like they flip through the pages of a book really quickly. And then the other thing I do is when I'm lying down on my bed and I'm staring at the ceiling, you know, the paint splotches on the ceiling, whatever, I'm looking up, I let my eyes go out of focus. And this is right before I fall asleep. And I ask them to show me past lives, and they'll start coming to me right then. But I'm usually asking. But the one that I can really remember is in England. That one I really remember. And I was a woman, and I don't think I was very wealthy. I think I kind of lived in some kind of hovel shack type of thing. And I remember it. It was just a different life. I was in same coloring. I looked in the same coloring, but I don't know that I looked the same. I think I was more like a woman of that time frame, like the 1700s is how I looked to myself. That's the one I remember.
Let's move on to Corey's question. And Corey's like a sister to me, so I do have to ask her a question. And she's saying, Sloan, I'm pretty sure I had an implant, but I think it's gone now. How can I tell?
Oh, that's interesting. You know, she's probably not going to, Corey's not going to like this when I say it. I don't know how you could tell except to actually have body workers and more than one look without telling them what you're doing, like have them scan your body. Like Robert was saying earlier, have them scan your body to see if there's any blockages in your energy. In fact, a Reiki master might be able to do this for you to see if there's any blockages in the energy flow and then to hone in on what that is. That would be the one way that I would know how to do it. I don't think you can see them physically. I do feel, though, like a psychic or an intuitive should be able to tell you where on your body there's something that appears to be foreign, you know, within the body's energy field. But I think you have to check all of the energy field of the body. So that would be like a healing person, a Reiki girl, anything along those lines. But you yourself, I don't know if you think it's gone, you're probably accurate, but I would test it through energy work to see how your body flows. That's what I would do.
All right. And this leads to Char's question. She is asking, do you know of implants that were ever created by humans that were implanted in people, much like aliens would?
Okay. Yeah, no, I absolutely believe our government does that. I'm going to sound like the whack job conspiracy theorist here. I believe they do that all the time. And let me just turn a different spin on that. I have observed over time with all the, mass murder shootings, things that happen. I'm just talking about in America. I don't know about in other countries, but the ones that I observe in the paper here, I think they actually implant us. And I thought this since I was a kid, teenager. I think they put it in our food through preservatives. I think they put it in the medicine they give us for depression, so the medicine to even out our moods. I think they put all kinds of, the way that it tastes in my mouth when I think of those, I don't eat those medicines, but I'm talking psychically when I perceive what's going on. There's a metallic taste, so there's something that sticks to our cells in our body that they have to get into our body to ingest to do it. And so to me, a lot of it is mind control through the antidepressant medicines. And then when they don't get us on that, they get us through something they put into our food or what we drink or eat. So I think it's extremely important to pay attention to that because that's how I believe they're getting people to be implanted. I truly believe that. So I think it's our government doing it, and I think they're using those methods as opposed to like tying you down to a table and implanting something in your body. However, I mean, they are literally right now, and I'm sure you've heard it on the news, talking about having people have a chip put in their body so that they can pay their bills at work easily, which is the stupidest thing I've ever heard of. And if you do that, you're insane. But they're talking about that at the moment. So there you go. Yes.
For sure. I want to move on here because I want to get more into you now. When you got to California, and this is going kind of back to the timeline of what we were talking about in the first hour, when you got to California, did you expect the attention of your abilities to catch so many people rather than working with people who were in the most need for a positive message?
No, I actually had no idea where my life was going. I was very open and flexible about it, and I was led to people who became teachers for me and mentors for me, and it was just a consistent theme all the way along. And then you're talking about the celebrity work, right? Like with the people that are the celebrities versus I'll say regular people, but really we're all people, but that's what you're talking about.
Yes.
I found that happened extremely spontaneously and not through anything of my own trying to do. I'll tell you how it happened. I mean, I had clients and some of them were more well-known than others, but they randomly came to me through word of mouth. Okay. Just like through somebody, somebody was a babysitter for their kids. And so they told the person and blah, blah, blah. That's how they came. But actually when I was 24, 25, I think, right around there, I was pregnant. Anyway, that's how I remember. I'm like, I don't know which part of the pregnancy, but I got a parking ticket. And this is a true story. Got a speeding ticket. And I left it till the last minute, like the very last minute, like I had 2 days to get this ticket done or it would get tripled. So I had to go to one of those traffic schools, and it was a comedy one I picked in Hollywood. True story. And I don't want to go, and I have to take the class 2 days in a row because I'm so late. There isn't a full 8-hour class, so I'm taking it for 4 hours and 4 hours. The second night I'm in there, every night we go in there, it's a different group of people who need to make up their class. They ask you what you do. So I stand up, say my name, say what I do, and sit down. This guy literally walks over to me and says, I'm producing a show. It's on air. We need somebody like you. Here's my card. Come in and see me. And that is how it started, actually. But it was so open-ended. Had I not been such a procrastinator about going to the stupid traffic school, it wouldn't have happened. But now I understood I was being led to it. And I fell into it extremely easily through that. And then my name started getting out that way. And then I went back into hiding again. Not hiding, back into normal life and word of mouth. It's always word of mouth, but it's people who know people who know people who know people. In Toronto, I did have some clients that I worked with, and I mentioned this. I don't know if you remember. You might be too young, but Don Adams. You remember Maxwell Smart? Get Smart.
Yes.
Anyway, yes, Don Adams, Gregory Hines. I mean, there were people I dealt with back then. That I sat with for several years before I left Toronto. I mean, as a young teenager working with them. And so it was kind of always around me, but I didn't actually look at them as celebrities. And when they come to you and they're famous, they have the same issues that we all have. They have kids, they have lovers, they have family problems, people die. They have work issues. I mean, you'd be surprised. You could pretty much interchange questions with people because a lot of people have the same issues. So the fact that they're celebrities doesn't mean they need less or more than anybody else. They just are looking for information and knowledge, and some of them are quite fascinated by the field itself. So there's some that are very well-known people that seek out psychics and empaths and people that do what we do. And then there's other ones that come to us because they're looking for someone to help them and they've tried everything else. And so it's the same for everybody, though. The same reason you would come for a reading or I would go to a reading, they come to the same thing. And when I'm reading them, I don't see them as celebrities. At first, it could be intimidating, not to lie, when I was younger. But I don't see them that way because they want my information. So it's not really about what they're doing or what I'm doing. They just want what comes through me. So it's a very even exchange. So nobody's, better or worse or whatever. It's just they come seeking knowledge, that kind of thing.
And I can understand that. I mean, everybody is human. We all technically live the same type of life, some in greener pastures, others not, some in front of a camera, others more on a construction site. And I can understand and appreciate that. But when, as an outsider, people look at, say, a movie star or an athlete or a musician or something, or a politician, we look at them and unfortunately we do put them on a higher pedestal. How many people in the land of Hollywood have you dealt with that really cannot handle the fact that people don't see them as a human being?
Oh, a lot of people. It destroys them. It breaks them. I always mention this client of mine because she was a client before she passed. But Anna Nicole Smith, when she first came to me, she'd lost her son. Okay, when she'd given birth to her baby girl, and she'd lost her son, and that's how I became acquainted. I actually knew somebody who was a very close friend of hers who came to me for readings through another close friend, and that's actually how I met Anna Nicole. So when her son died, that's how she ended up coming to me for that. And what I noticed, this woman was given everything that we say we want in life: good looks, intelligence, marketing with how to handle herself, everything that we say we want. And her questions were more geared, without revealing too much about her, but her questions obviously were about her son who'd passed. And that's really what she wanted to know, because it devastated her, obviously. But her other questions, as time went on, before she herself passed, was about who she could trust, and the fact that she was extremely lonely in her life because so many people were not kind to her based on who she was or their perception of who she was. And it was actually extreme. It was an eye-opener because she was kind of on her own. Like the people that, except for the girl that brought her to me, who was on her side, so many people were not on her side, and close people to her. And so it was very hit and miss, and we worked through speaking about a lot of that, and it was interesting to see because it's not what it's cracked up to be. We think it's great because we think they have money and what we want, which money is great because you can buy stuff. So when people say money doesn't make you happy, they're full of BS, because if you have a sick baby and you have money, you can feed your baby, take your baby to the doctor, so therefore it will make you happy. But in the long run, I get what they're saying, because she had all of that, but yet she couldn't trust the human nature, and she was extremely disappointed by that around her. Like, it's not what she looked for. And one of the last things she said to me before she passed was, she said, when I was young, she's talking when she was under the age of 10, like when she was a young girl, she said, she's speaking about certain family members. She said, when I come home and I'm smiling and I'm happy, they want to wipe the smile off my face. And so from a very young age, the position of all these attributes that we felt that she had, her looks, her abilities, everything, whatever she was doing, she was actually tortured by this because other people were envious and coveted what she had. That's what she's really saying. And so it's a very double-edged sword, because when you get when this world opens up for you and you get these things, other people don't wish you to have those things because they want to have those things. So it's hard. People end up in situations that are very damaging for their self-esteem, even though they have all these other things. So you have to be extremely grounded. And she was such a young girl. She wasn't, when it started for her. So it's interesting. It's very interesting. But if you guys are interested, do you want to hear this? That she's the one, and I can speak about it because I've spoken about it. But when I talked to her, I was very, I didn't realize it was her, but my whole family will tell you this because we all lived through this story. And I believe she passed in 2008, I want to say, or late 2007. I think it was February 2008. It was Uranus was going direct and there was an eclipse. I remember that. And I was driving the car and I got the phone call. She passed before it hit the news because her friend that referred her to me told me, at that moment. So I got it right then. But, and weirdly ended up in a car accident at that exact moment when I heard that information. But aside from that, prior to her passing, I was communicating with her because she would call and I would do my job and etc. And I started to get these weird symptoms for about 5 or 6 months before she passed. I had no idea it had to do with her. I would be in my house and I would be, getting dressed for the day, and I would look down at my leg, and my right leg would be swollen, I thought, like swollen out like an elephant leg. And so it would freak me out, and I would think I had an infection in the top side of my right leg. So I would go downstairs or wherever I could find my kids, my husband, whoever was home, and I would get the camera and I would say, is my leg swollen? And they would say, no. And I'd say, take a picture. I want to see. So I have hundreds of pictures of myself from like the waist down checking out my thighs, right? This is no joke. Thinking that my right thigh was swollen. And everywhere I went, it felt like I was carrying this fluid, swollen right leg. Okay, so put that aside. That goes on. Then I feel as though when I'm lying down at night, I'm looking for my kids, but I'm not. I know they're in their beds. And I go and wake them up. I'm touching them to see if they're breathing, and they're getting annoyed. This is really going on. And when I'm sleeping, I feel like I'm waking up and I'm actually dead. So I'm going to the mirror quite a bit to see if I can see myself. I cannot see myself. I can only see like a skeleton, like literally what looks like a Halloween skeleton. It's weird, but that's what I was seeing. So again, I would tell my kids, get my husband, anybody take a camera. I was convinced that I was actually dead, but didn't know I was dead. Okay, this is a weird thing. Then Christmas Eve, before she passed, true story, I up in the bedroom, wrapping presents, hiding everything. And I look in the mirror and I say out loud, oh shit, oh shoot, oh shoot, I just did it. I did a non-Canadian thing in cuss. I said, oh shoot, I can't put my makeup on. My skin fell off my face. I said something like, I've been out too long. It's just bones. I can't put my makeup on. I'm just bones, right? So my husband can hear me. He comes upstairs, asks if he can make me tea, takes another picture of me and says, no, your face is fine. I'm sure he thought I was on drugs. I'm not, but I'm sure he thought I was. Anyway, move ahead. This is going on for several months. I'm walking in front of cars on the street. I'm with a girlfriend. We're going to an appointment with her, and I'm just stepping in front of a car. She's pulling me back. She's like, why are you doing that? I'm like, because I'm already dead. I'm telling her this, and she's like, okay, crazy. And at that point, she would be accurate. Anyway, Anna Nicole Smith passes away, okay? Sandy flies to the Bahamas or Barbados, wherever she was, Bahamas, I think, flies there to do the body. That was who Anna was going to have do the body, the hair and makeup. Sandy is there. A week later, I get a call from her, and she says to me, I can't do her makeup. The skin is off her face. They left her out too long. I have to do a closed casket. Boom. Exactly what I was saying, but it was in reference to her passing, had nothing to do with me. I picked up on the energy thought of what was happening. So it was actually predictive in nature, only I could not grasp or understand why I was feeling it. Another part of that story is she did die from a drug overdose, they said, the methadone and whatever the heck else. But what was not reported in the paper, which I found out later, was that she actually had a sepsis infection in the top part of her leg, which is why I was feeling my leg swelling. It wasn't my leg swelling. I was feeling the infection in her leg as she was having it before she passed. So that was my experience with that. And that's what I would say.
That is amazing. Now, with someone like Anna Nicole Smith, who did bring a lot of positive and negative attention to her, God rest her soul, I mean, how did she expect people to react when she's 29 years old and marries an 89-year-old billionaire saying it's out of love? And in the meantime, the guy looks more wrinkled than a male body part.
But see, I do feel that he took care of her, and I'm going to say this. You got to keep in mind that Anna was a stripper. So a stripper's mindset and the way that they value love is when somebody takes care of them financially. That's what they're there for. She'd been in Playboy, she'd been all of that. She built, and she was stunningly, exquisitely gorgeous. She really was extraordinary, beautiful. I don't know so much then as like when she was a guest girl, but I mean, she was born exquisite. just from another planet, gorgeous. But having said that, you got to keep in mind where she met him. He was in a strip club, and that was what he offered her. So if he's going to offer that, and he's in his right mind, and she is of that mindset, that's going to be her choice and his choice. Now, I don't feel she hated him, so I do feel there was a mutual friendship and respect. I don't know if she slept with him. I never went down that road. That wasn't anything in our conversation. It was a much heavier conversation that we dealt with when I was working with her. But I don't know what she thought. But here, let's just look at it this way. So many people that are the same age get married and they're full of it. Okay, like they marry somebody their own age, they're full of it. They marry people for beards for whatever reason. You go into some countries and they have 14 different wives. This is just another variation of something that people don't accept. And it's very, to me, it's a bit extreme, but in her upbringing and the way that she was and what she did for a living, it's not that extreme. That's actually a little bit more typical. I don't think it's where her heart was. I feel, probably men were not where her heart was. I feel she was more interested in women. In fact, I know she was, but, she was just doing different stuff at different times like we all do. It's just the age difference brought the attention and the fact he's a billionaire. But how many of these other women marry billionaires that are their own age and they're not in love either, technically, right?
True enough, but I mean, there's sometimes when it's just obvious. Like you don't have to be a rocket scientist going through the Safeway, checkout line to see the Inquirer to say, "Oh, I'm so in love." Like, come on. He's old enough to be your great-grandfather.
But see, that all goes back to, if you want to go back into that, when you get a woman that marries a man with a huge age difference, you're dealing with childhood issues again. She may have been reenacting something she learned from a different point. It was part of the lesson. And actually, what was so interesting to me about that, forget the fact that she married him, but it was the fact that he said he was going to give her that money and that his family fought it, that people think that was okay. It's like, I understand as a family member, you would want your inheritance of that level. I get it. But at the point, what the heck is your dad doing that for, too? Like, there's some responsibility in him, too. So I see it as something that both of them learned. I don't know what, but there's some lesson. But, yeah, you're right. And I don't know that the Inquirer quoted her correctly. I just think she needed a home for her son and herself. And so she did what she does. Like everybody else, we do what we do.
Shar has a question.
And come on, it was good reading. Come on.
Yeah, I know. You know what? I can see where that one would have been fun. I mean, it was and I don't mean any disrespect to her or the tragedy of her son passing away or her passing away.
No, I know.
But I mean, at certain points, people have to be responsible for their own train wreck.
Yes, they absolutely. No, you can't abuse yourself on that level and get that out of control and not expect, and especially when she's one of the people that we're talking about that had instances leading up to where this wouldn't be the first time this happened. So, absolutely. Yeah, you are responsible. Unless you're kidnapped at gunpoint, you're responsible. Correct.
Quick question. Shar is asking, did we ever find out if that lawyer murdered her son?
No, we didn't actually find that out, meaning no one ever said it. But from my understanding of what I felt around that, I'm going to use the word, let me word it in a way without being offensive. When I meditated on that and asked what happened with that, there were many things that happened with it. So it was a combination of things. There was coercion. There was encouragement of, doing this. But it started, weirdly enough, keep in mind, when we raise our children, even if we have a mother and a father in a house, kids will pick one or the other to influence and to replicate on some level until they can become their own person. So this boy learned certain behaviors, which made him test out certain behaviors. And then the verbiage of the lawyer, you're talking about Howard Stern I think it's Howard Stern, yeah. you're talking about him, the conversations between him and the son kind of encouraged the son to be more sad than he should have. And then there were other things going on with her son that I picked up at just prior to his passing, that he may have actually suffered from depression a little bit at that time. So I think it was a combination and a perfect storm. I definitely don't feel it was suicide, though. I mean, and I don't feel it was murder. I feel it was unfortunate behavior that ultimately leads to a bad thing, but shouldn't have happened that soon to him, because I think he was new to the whole thing. I do think when his sister was born, he was really happy, but he was also scared about his position in the family. I picked that up extremely strong. So when we operate off of fear, we tend to do things we wouldn't normally do. So I would say it was more of circumstance around the situation rather than like Howard Stern handing him the methadone and saying, dude, take all of this, because I don't feel that's what it was.
Getting back to Hollywood celebrities, and I realize there are a lot of stories you can't share due to, you know, contracts and everything like that. We can definitely honor that here as well. Is there a real difference between, say, a Hollywood actor comparatively, say, to a musician or a politician, or and I'm thinking ego-wise here, you know, or dealing with an athlete?
Yes, I exactly. Okay, I'm sorry. I just butted in. Go ahead.
No, I was actually finishing, because it comes down to the ego with all of them. You know, I mean, we see a lot of, you know, repeat actors, you know, going on reality TV shows or infomercials, just trying to keep that camera time. Or we see an athlete who is struggling to catch the football or score a goal in hockey or something along those lines. The politician who just seems to get in trouble over and over and over again, but he really means well to work for the people. It just doesn't work. How do you take all of those different types of emotions and work with the ego that is based in each and every one of them individually?
Okay, now that's interesting, because I'm very much, I work with a lot of musicians. That would be my top group of people would be would be musicians. Like, I have more musicians as clients than I do, say, stage actors versus TV actors. So musicians is huge on my client list. What I would say with people like athletes and musicians, what I've noticed is, and I'm speaking about the ones that we think are highly gifted, I actually, and even actors, I don't know about reality TV, it's just the time frame, so I can't tell if anybody's talented or not in that, because I can't watch it, so I don't know. But when there's a true talent, let's just put it this way, when there's a true talent, whether it be music, sports, theater, or TV acting, or movie acting, when there's a definite talent, that's actually the same as my talent, so to speak. It is given to them and through them. So it's something the soul has to do for the development. And as human beings, we all have ego. Okay? Like, I've met some people in 7-Eleven that have a bigger ego than people I've seen, at the Oscars. Okay? Don't ask me why, but they do. So if they're good at what they do and they're not doing it to just be famous, so if they're doing it out of a soul level passion, then it becomes a purpose for them, and there's a reason for it. So I don't see ego in that. Like, some of my gifted musician talents, people that I deal with, one of them who's on tour right now with a hugely famous band, heavy metal. Anyway,
could I be seeing? Hold on, could I be seeing this band on September 1st in Vancouver?
I hope so. What band are you seeing then? I'm not sure where they're going in September, but tell me which band.
Guns N' Roses.
No, not that band.
Damn
we'll
it.
just go with we'll go with Crazy Train and Ozzy.
Okay.
No, not Guns N' Roses. However, when you're looking at people, the technicians of the music and the song, okay, so people that are extremely talented, your instrumental, like guitarists, your your singers like Adele, your opera singers, your tremendous actors that can actually, you forget that they're acting and they can bring talent. That's channeled from outside of them. That is egoless, actually, because it's coming through them. They are the instrument, much like a psychic is the instrument. So they go somewhere else in their head. What you see as ego around them, if you want to call it that way, their bad behavior, their 45 husbands or wives or whatever, they're drinking, they're drugging, whatever they're doing, that's human nature. But the media pushes that part of their personality to us. So that's why we have a block when we see it. But they're actually channeling. I mean, Kobe Bryant, to be born in that body and to be able to play like that with that kind of confidence, that's a gift. He was awarded that gift in this lifetime. It was his turn. You don't know, like in 5 other past lifetimes, he may have not been able to be physical. It may have been the one thing his soul needed to do. Maybe he was in a wheelchair and he couldn't actually do something. But that's a perfect storm to make that athlete come through. That's a perfect storm. He had to have the right parents created, and he picks them, from my understanding. I'm just going on my experience doing this work. He picks them, and he focuses. There's something in the soul that needs to do it. Now let's look at it in another way. When people are born with that kind of power on this planet, they have money and they command attention. They can do a lot of good, such as, and I just blanked on his name, and computer guy, not the Apple guy, the other one, Bill Gates. Oh my God. Yeah, what was that? That was an eclipse screw up there. But Bill Gates, okay, he creates this mass product that everybody's using, but what does he do? He goes out and he's a humanitarian. So there's an ego attached to what he did because he did this, and it's, there's stories about certain things, but he's basically egoless, and he has the platform with which to do more work on a soul level. So a lot of them can be coming through for that, or it can be just simply that the soul needed to experience this and needed it, so in this lifetime they got it. Now keep in mind, with us coming in and out of different lifetimes, you can have that in a lifetime too. You can have something along those lines in a lifetime as well. You don't have to just have this. Like, I don't have to be psychic next time. I can come through as whatever it is that my soul needs, and if I really need that experience, then I can have it. But it has something to do with their development. And keep in mind, anybody, and I've learned this from all of them that I've talked to, the ones I've talked to, and some of them have been crazy. Some of them have been on the news and been crazy, and, they've been winning. I'm just going to say that without saying anything, winning. Anyway, they've been nuts. That's one thing. That's what they choose to do on a human form. But a lot of these people have made their careers. It's hard work for them. That's the thing I've noticed. And it's the determination and the belief in themselves, which we might call ego, is what gets them where they are as well. They believe they can do it, and they will do it. And that's what they do. So it's a mixed bag, but it's interesting. And a lot of the people are extremely gifted at more than one thing. Like, it's weird. Once the success opens one way, it's like the body energy opens and they're accomplished at a lot of different things, which is extraordinary. So I've learned that, and some of them are just really nice people, and that's where they get where they're going. Like, just very super nice people. And some are born with gifts. I have a lot of models as clients, and they are born, that's how they look, I know people don't like it. Like, on this planet, it's kind of reverse world. We say we want to be beautiful, we want to be healthy, we want to be fit, but we tend to bash people that are those things. Oh, she thinks she's so pretty or whatever. No, she just was born looking like, if you're 6 feet tall and you look like Iman, you're born like that. That's a good thing, right?
I wouldn't mind.
Right?
I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Me neither. I'm not going to lie. She's beautiful. But what I'm saying is, she was born that way. So her soul came through like that. And it is really no different than somebody who is 300 pounds and shorter. Their soul came through like that, and they picked it. So why did they pick it? See, that's what we have, the human stuff, and then we have why the soul picked that body and that experience in this life. And that's all that matters. Whether you're successful here or not may not be the end game. We just think it is because we live on the earth and it's ruled by mundane materialism, basically, or success or fame, or however you want to word it. That would be my answer to that question.
But
did I just take you off on a tangent?
No. I think it works great because I'm feeding off of what you say. But how many of these people, whether they're celebrities, musicians, absolutely, we see a lot of them in front of the camera. It doesn't matter if they're rock stars, rappers, actors, where they seem to have a chip on their shoulder. And I realize that's a public persona, but how many of them are truly hurting spiritually inside because they hate having to do that? They hate having to play that thug all the time or tell those fans, to scram or something along those lines, because we do see it all the time happening. Or is some of them just their egos are so huge they just cannot comprehend what real life is anymore?
Well, some of their egos are so huge and they can't comprehend. You can turn that on with anybody who, focuses on something stupid as opposed to, helping children or feeding people or clothing people or making sure somebody gets an education. You can tell that. I mean, you can tell that right off the bat. A lot of them, I think, maybe out of luck will get into a career because they have an ability. And so really what the decision is if you don't like what you're doing, like anybody else who doesn't like what they're doing, they have to make these decisions to change. But then in the act of changing, which I have come up with a lot of my clients that are actors, that have abilities in all these other areas too, by the way, like these extraordinary talents, but they don't want to give up the money because, quite frankly, entertainment is one of the top ways to make money. So, I mean, like you can make a lot of money for not being like a brain surgeon or, a pilot or whatever. You can make it by doing something that seems more fun. But a lot of them, the people I deal with, I think are basically good people, but some of them have gotten into the drugs and alcohol. And again, it goes back to trauma earlier in life. So it's more about working them through that or moving them past that so that they can see who they are really. And in seeing who they are, they can make choices. But you're right. Some of them don't like what they're doing. Some of them want to be seen differently. But that's the same in any job. Somebody might want to be, a cook in a restaurant, but they're the busboy. But they can cook, but no one's going to give them a chance. That's just kind of life experience. So we have to figure out how to get there.
If you were to take...
But I would say
Go ahead, please.
I would say it's a mixed bag of... I'm sorry. I would say it's a mixed bag of people, like just like regular people versus celebrities. You get people you like and people you... I'm very fortunate. Pretty much everybody I deal with I like. So I kind of pray for that. I pray, I pray, but some can be irritating, but I pray that it's a good match. Like I pray that we match, so that I can help them and that they will listen to the help. Yeah.
Well, let me ask you this then, because we hold these people on such a pedestal. And, I've been a Guns N' Roses fan since I was 14 years old and hearing Appetite for Destruction for the first time. I mean, I'm going to see them for the seventh time in the last 5 years here, and I'm an addict. I can admit it. I mean, Axl is God to me for music. It's just the way it works. I mean, our music for this show is by former GNR guitarist Ron Bumblefoot THAL. We lucked out with that. So,
exactly.
It just seems to always tie in. But the whole point that I'm saying is, a lot of your clients, even though we hold them on a pedestal, you do mention they do have regular lives. They do want to be loved. They do want to be held, coddled. Yes, they have more financial ability than many of us, but they still make bad transactions, get involved with the wrong people, so on and so forth.
Absolutely.
How many of these people that you deal with that we would consider quote unquote famous actually are psychic themselves or alien abductees?
Okay, good question. I've run into both. A lot of them are super psychic because they channel their gift, okay? So it comes from the other side. I have a very young girl musician who's hugely popular all over the world. She's absolutely exquisite. She looks like a little deer. She channels ghosts all the time. Like they come to her. She sees them. She can't drive by a graveyard. She sees them. A lot of the clients, now the alien thing is interesting because I've had a lot of my, more so weirdly, my actor clients are the ones that say they've had the experiences in childhood. So I hear that more than rather from the musicians. The musicians seem to be more empathic, intuitive, and psychic, but it's the actors. I don't think I've heard a musician at this point tell me that he's had any alien experience. Not that they don't believe in them, but I'm saying I can't recall that. But with actors, I have quite a few that have it in early childhood, and I'm talking before the age of 7. I've had several, like 3 to 8 over the last couple of years that have come in with different stuff. Some of them just remembering it weirdly when they sobered up. So when they go through the process of cleaning up their lives at whichever point it is, some of them have brought it up then. So it's been something that's been pushed down because maybe they felt it wasn't acceptable or that. And a lot of them, I mean, if you look at, which I know you'll appreciate this, but if you look at D. Wallace Stone from, oh my God, not Close Encounters. Oh my God, E.T. with little Drew Barrymore. If you look at her, she does the same work I do in Los Angeles. So she was in an alien movie and she's a professional psychic medium, and that's what she's been doing ever since she got off the movie E.T. So that right there tells you, doesn't it? I mean, it kind of illustrates the point clearly.
I never knew that about her. Never knew.
Yeah, she does the same work. In fact, she's down the street from me. I don't know her, but I hear she's down the street. And there's a lot of them. I mean, there's a lot with my musician clients, which I talk about. I've talked about this on some other shows. They have a tendency to channel other musicians whose work has been left unplayed. This I found out because when I was a child, and I mean before I ever ran away and before I even knew who Jimi Hendrix was, he used to come to me and try to get me to play music, which was lost on me because I am not musical in that sense. I didn't even know who Jimi Hendrix was. I was, between the age of 11 and 12. And for several years, he was with me in spirit, but he was with other people too. And it had, other people I've since met and other musicians because he had unfinished business. So he tried to get people to play the music. That I find a lot with musicians, that people come in and out and some of their talent comes from the other side, literally, depending on, what they're willing to explore musically. And there are people that are actors who are extremely intuitive and go into almost a trance state when they're acting. Like they're just incredibly psychic. That's why they get the part so good. It's not actually because, they took classes for 100 years. It's because they're intuitively right in there. And I actually, talking to an actor friend the other night that really felt like somebody stepped into his body and he was able to channel this person in his body. And I believe that happens quite a bit. I believe all the time it's in and out when we're successful at something we do. You can feel it when the energy quickens and something comes into your space. So I would say that athletes, that's a whole other kind of lifestyle because you're really grounding into the physical. And so there's something about the soul that has to be physical in this life. And that's a much different thing because they're almost doing everything to the physical extreme as opposed to the spiritual. So they're not going on the spiritual side. They're going very much to the physical. So there's something in their soul that needs to experience that. If that isn't about necessarily money or power, it just happens to be that we pay that. But it has more to do with the soul needing to actually feel what it's like to be grounded in a body. Me doing my work, I have a hard time being grounded, which is why I do run a lot and hike. But I would say the majority of my life, I don't even feel like I'm in my body. I'm out all the time. Like I'm unaware. I mean, I like to shower, I put on makeup, and I brush my teeth, but I don't feel grounded. Like I pop out at any given thing. Like if you yell at me, I pop out. If I take aspirin, I pop out. I'm always out. These athletes the soul has said in this lifetime, we want to experience a physical lifetime, and that's why they come into it. And so I think it's a little bit different when you're an athlete. I think there's a little bit of a different choice process there. It's just they happen to make money in this world at this time. You know, I don't know that they did when the Olympics were first out, you know.
No.
In Rome or Greece or wherever it was. Yeah.
I got a quick question for you because we only got about 4 minutes left, and I think this is a good question from Ron. How do you feel then, being around the circus of television, about paranormal investigators and TV paranormal shows?
You didn't really just ask me that. Okay. Here's my experience, and I'm going to say it. My experience with the whole thing. Now, keep in mind, going back 25 or so years ago was actually as a teenager, I was on TV, but in Los Angeles, American TV was about 25 years ago. And at that time, it seemed to be legitimate, as in when you went in to be a psychic on camera or a ghost hunter or whatever it was you were doing, they let you do your thing. Okay, so whatever it was. Now, that's not to say you yourself wouldn't structure something so that you look to be fabulous or whatever, but I never noticed it from a production standpoint. At this point, a lot of what you see on TV is overly produced, because keep in mind, if you're a psychic on TV and somebody's coming to your door, you know already who's coming to your door. So there's a lot of that. And the ghost hunters, I find some of them are real and some of them are not. It's the same with the psychics. You kind of have to weed them out. I think the authentic ones get their message through. Some of the ghost hunting shows are funny to me because I'm like, it's clear to me they don't know what they're talking about. So I can tell when somebody's speaking what they think the language is, as opposed to somebody who really lives that language. So you can see it. You can see when a psychic is saying something. And I'm not going to say which show it is, but there's a show I watched, and this person was dealing with a celebrity. So when we know celebrities, we know their backgrounds because they're celebrities, and it's forced on us through the media, right? Like we hear about it. So I didn't happen to know much about this young actress that he was talking to. I know the name. I'm not really familiar with her because it's just, I don't watch her show. So anyway, I Googled this actress while I'm watching the show, and I read the first paragraph on Wikipedia, and by God, that's what came out of his mouth. And I thought, well, why is that psychic? That's what I was thinking. And I mean, it was almost too funny. It's like somebody Wikipedia'd it, and he said it, and now I guess he's going to make millions and look like he's exactly accurate. There's a lot of that goes on. So my lesson to people listening and to answer that question is, whether you've got someone to clean your house, is a ghost hunter, a clearer, a psychic, an empath, a Reiki master, whatever it is, you actually have to do your research and make sure that the person knows what they're talking about. Like you can't just rely on the fact that they're on camera, because that doesn't necessarily mean they're authentic. Because a lot of people get on camera that are not authentic or not even accurate and not even truthful.
See, that's why I have a face for radio, so I don't need to worry about that. Don't need to worry about getting on camera. Sloan, I want to say
thank you. You know what I'm saying.
I know exactly what you're saying. We literally got 1 minute left with you, my dear, and I was wondering if you could tell people how they could get a hold of you, where they could find more information on the lovely and talented Sloan Bella.
Oh, thank you, Dave. Okay, because you've said it 500 times. I'll say it one more, 501. SloanBella.com. And you can reach me through there. I'm also on Facebook. I do have Twitter. I never look at it. And I'm on Instagram. So it's Sloan Bella, and SloanBella.com.
You were wonderful. Thank you so much for joining us and our fans.
Thank you for having me.
Not a problem. I'm going to get you to hold on. I'm going to wrap this thing up if you don't mind.
Absolutely.
All right. In the background, you hear Mr. Ron Bumblefoot THAL, formerly of Guns N' Roses, currently of Art of Anarchy, and apparently just liked my post on Facebook for Sloan. He is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us till Little Brother is watching. Bumblefoot, the official music of what we do around here. I want to say tomorrow night on the program, book publisher John Goodwin is going to join us. We're going to talk about the life and times of his favorite author, Jim Marrs. Got to publish his books as well. There might be one more coming out, 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern Time. I want to thank my team who helps me put this together. Director of Business Development, Kim Gandy. Our great announcer, grandfather extraordinaire, Bob Davis. Catherine James on social media. Jolene Lammers, Tim Doyle on web design. From the Encounter Online, Everett Thiemer, Eric Markham, and LMC Media, Leslie Mitchell-Clark out of Toronto. They are my team. But it's you guys in the chat rooms on Twitter who make this show so much fun each and every night. You keep it going. You keep us alive. Your questions were great tonight, audience. And in Twitter, your snark was fantastic. Snark of the night goes to Mr. Skeptic himself. That was early, and it was fantastic. Don't forget, we will be back here in exactly 23 hours from now, my friends. I hope you all join us, because together, we own the night. Thank you for listening. I will be back tomorrow night. I'll see you here. Mr. Bumblefoot, do us a favor. Please take us home. See ya.